assault allegations in place, a Title IX investigation as well. The football game is significantly taking a backseat to that. Having said that, though, the impact on tonight's game is significant for Minnesota as 3 starting defensive backs, part of the group of players that are suspended. Bob Wischusen now joined by Brock Ewert. And Brock, this was a saga for the last 2.5 weeks or so. What was your reaction as it happened, and now that we arrive at tonight where the Golden Gophers are playing?
Well, tonight we're going to have a winner and a loser. And through this entire process, there's nothing but losers. It is just an incredibly unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. And from a football perspective, quite honestly, this couldn't be worse for Minnesota. Defense coordinator Jay Sawvell told us as much when we met with him and said, yeah, from a matchup perspective, this is not the kind of team you want to face with only 8 healthy DBs going tonight, available defensive backs. It's been a mess.
Well, we are about to head down to the field for the celebration of what these players that are here tonight deserve, and that is a college football game that we get to call between 2 teams that have very different styles of play. Washington State won the toss, deferred their option to the second half, so the Golden Gophers will start with the football. They've got Rodney Smith, Shannon Brooks back deep to receive the opening kick. Eric Powell has it teed up, and the National Funding Holiday Bowl about to begin here in San Diego. This will be Rodney Smith from the 1. He gets outside. And it'll be very good field position for Minnesota to begin their opening drive. Down on the field, as I said, is Allison Williams. And Allison, how about the reaction leading up to this game for Minnesota?
Well, that is what remains to be seen, is how the players who are taking the field will respond emotionally to participating in a game that just weeks ago they refused to play in. Head coach Tracy Claeys told us that he is not concerned about division amongst his team, saying it's the closest team he's been a part of at Minnesota. But he did say he's worried about how fragile they will be, how they will handle adversity within this game. There's no doubt a large cloud has been cast over what's supposed to be a celebratory game. How it manifests itself now, we will see.
Well, on first down, a handoff to Rodney Smith, picks up a yard, and an injury note for Minnesota that impacts them as much as the suspensions do. Tyler Moore, their starting center, started every game this year at center, not able to go. Mitch Leidner is the quarterback. That's his younger brother, Matt. He's the scout team center. He had never played an actual in-game snap until tonight. Now he's going to be snapping it to his brother Mitch all night. They're the battery. Be an interesting thing to watch.
And there's going to be a lot of communication with a group in a front in Wazoo that loves to move and shift like that.
Leidner play action under some pressure, and he will go down. A big loss of nearly 10 yards. Hercules Mataafa gets the sack for the Cougs. And it's 3rd down and long for a quarterback, Brock, that this year has put up better numbers running the football than he has throwing the football.
Yeah, it's a quarterback, but it's an entire group offensively that is limited. And they've got to avoid these situations, and that's exactly what Wazoo wants. Only 18 sacks on the entire season coming in. Not a strength of the Cougs defensively, but you will see this. This is a matchup of both style and size and speed. The Wazoo group there much faster getting to the quarterback.
Leidner checks it down. Way short of the first down is Nate Wozniak, the tight end. So it will be a 3 and out in spite of the good field position for Minnesota to start.
And once again, a little line game there. You're going to see this on every snap. You are going to see a different alignment, movement, stunt, shift from the Washington State Cougars an entire month to get ready for a pretty static offense out of Minnesota offensively with lots of moving pieces up front. That's a win for the Cougs to begin.
Caleb Fossum back deep to receive the punt at about the 15-yard line. Good kick from Ryan Santoso. Fair catch at the 15. When Mike Leach, Brock Ewert took over on the Palouse, this was a program that had had 8 consecutive seasons without a winning record. In his first 3 seasons, they were 12-25, but the last 2 seasons, 17-8, and started off the year 7-0 in conference play.
Also started to begin there with some real adversity to open the season. Lost to Eastern Washington, went on the road and lost to Boise. And that's when he switched gears and he challenged the toughness of his team, and boy, did they ever respond. It's a group up front. It's the group up front and the quarterback that make this system go. And that will really define the outcome against a pretty salty, physical Gopher defense.
In the bottom left of your screen, the true freshman Coney Durr, number 16. He is a completely experience-free starter in that secondary as Gerard Wicks picks up 7. And he's going to be spending all night trying to diagnose what Luke Falk is throwing at him.
Well, they play a front like that, and they don't have numbers around that line. Luke is more than content to hand that ball off. Very balanced offense for Mike Leach. Strange to say that. Still number 2 in passing, but more than willing to run it.
Wide receiver screen. Tavares Martin jitterbugs his way for a first down out to the 31.
You would think in these kind of styles with a spread scheme and in a group that loves to use the entire 53 yards, and you're going to see Luke Falk command all of it. Those are signals to the wide receivers with the route, and they actually control the time of possession. Washington State, top 25 in America. Again, something maybe you're not used to with Mike Leach's systems in the past.
Robert Lewis was the motion man, drew the attention of that second level of the defense, and Kyle Sweet found the soft spot and picked up 12.
And it starts with that protection. When Luke has air around him, he can scan that field. He is going to find the matchup advantages, the space advantages, something he didn't have against Colorado and Washington, who continued to squeeze that pocket. This is a good start with those 5 big fellas up front for Washington State.
Falk with a long throw to the sideline, his first miss. Intended for C.J. Dimry. Now, when you think of a Mike Leach offense, I think some stereotypically think, oh, throws it all the time like Baylor. No, they throw it all the time, but the pace is much different, isn't it?
That's exactly right. It's not about just running at such a frantic tempo that you can't get to the play you want. Everything is designed for Luke Falk to handle and get the matchups he wanted, like that one. A deep out on the true freshman Durr. He just overshot the receiver.
Only a 3-man rush, so Falk has all day. Now extends the play. Floats one over the middle. Wide open. Robert Lewis. Not much experience in the back end of that defense, certainly on the edges for Minnesota, and maybe that lack of experience hurt them there. A gain of 25.
And now here you do see a little tempo after an explosive play. Make sure you keep those guys on their heels defensively. That's big time out of Luke. That's what all these NFL guys want to see. We've got a box full of them next to us here tonight. That ability to extend a play, keep the eyes down the field, and punish a defense.
Again, it's Martin. Is there a quarterback that you've seen on film, any of our games, anywhere in America, that has more on his shoulders than Luke Falk?
No, I don't think so. And getting a chance to sit over there last week, and I made a trip to Pullman and got to sit in their quarterback room and watch the interaction between head coach and quarterback. It was phenomenal. It was high level. It was NFL stuff of what he's responsible for, you know, around this line of scrimmage. So much of that run game, so much protection dictated by his decision making.
Blitz coming. Falk able to flip it free. Robert Lewis brought down shy of the first down by Demarius Travis. No gain. So now it will be 3rd down and 4.
And Demarius a good one. You're going to see Mr. Travis all over the field tonight. He's a very active safety, a secondary that's obviously diminished tonight. Not whole by any means, but the senior right there, and that is imperative. That yards after catch has to be minimized.
He's one of those kids you feel good for. He was injured last season in the opening game of what should have been his true senior year. So the fact that he came back for his redshirt senior season after missing all of last year basically and gets a chance to play on this stage in a bowl game. Met him yesterday at the luncheon. A really good kid. Wide receiver screen on 3rd down. Lowering his shoulders and moving the chains again is Tavares Martin for a gain of 6.
Well, this will be the conundrum that Minnesota is going to be in. And that time in a 3rd and short, they decide to bring pressure, try to bring one more. Luke Falk gets the ball out of his hands, and it's the blocks outside. The commitment that time, Gabe Marks, the all-time leader in receptions in Pac-12 history, willing to do the dirty work to help his buddy.
Falk starts the game 6 of 7, and it's a first down in the red zone. This time they'll run it. Looking for a cutback is James Williams. And if there is a strength for Minnesota defensively, that's it. The interior of their defensive line, especially with Scott Ekpe, Steven Richardson, Scott's brother Hendrick. That's a group that at least they should be able to hold up their end if the inexperience on the back end of this defense struggles.
And Jay Savell knows it. And that time, Steven Richardson, the nose tackle, he's a little power plug. Kind of like Coach Savell. He is strong, low to the ground, low center of gravity. Leads his team in tackles for loss and sacks, and he wants to get underneath. And they feel like it's a matchup advantage with him and the right guard Middleton and the center Sorensen.
Falk again extends the play, directing traffic, tucks it under. He picked up about 3, so now it's a 3rd down to try and keep the drive alive at the 17-yard line.
That was a 5-man pressure that time once again for Minnesota. I will be surprised tonight if Minnesota is going to unload the blitz and the pressure on Luke Falk, but they want to mix it. They want to change those pictures against him. Even with people down, they cannot oversimplify their scheme against a veteran like Luke Falk.
With that lack of experience in the secondary against a quarterback like Luke Falk, if you blitz, you better get there.
That's right. And they blitzed the previous 3rd down. 3rd and 7, a good zone opportunity. Got to tackle firmly here, though, if you're the Gophers.
This time they bring 5. Luke Falk, well protected, floats it underneath. Trying to get to the 10-yard line by reaching the ball out. First catch for Gabe Marks. Let's see where they spot it. It looks like it will be 4th down and about a half yard. And it doesn't look like there's much hesitation for Mike Leach. Leads his offense on the field to go for it on 4th down.
Pretty heady play, and nearly every route combination the Cougars run have this option underneath. So if you get man-to-man, you're running away. You're able, as Luke is, to scan the entirety of that field. And no surprise here, as inconsistent as this kicking game has been, to go for it on 4th and short.
Gerard Wicks at 227 pounds is the back to the right of Falk. He gets the call. He gets the 1st down. He gets the 5. He gets the end zone with a touchdown. There is a flag thrown at about the 2-yard line. We'll see if the Wicks score stands up.
Holding. Number 8. Offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat 4th down.
That's the wide receiver, Tavares Martin.
This is a tough one. You love the effort. We showed Marks earlier on that bubble screen, and look at Martin getting into the true freshman. But once those arms get extended and you see the hands outside the frame and that jersey tugged, you're going to draw that penalty from the side judge.
That's a spot foul. So I think Mike Leach and the sideline for Washington State wants to know, where is the football going to be put? Is this 4th and 5? Is it 4th and 7? It looks like it's going to be about 4th and 2. And let's see if that impacts his decision. He's going to send the field goal group out now on 4th down and 2 and try and get the 3 with Eric Powell. Powell started off the season struggling mightily, 0 for his first 5. Now Mike Leach is going to call timeout. Well, wait a minute. Maybe he did see that football being placed at the 12-yard line on 4th. Abushusen alongside Brock Ewart. Allison Williams down on the field. 4th down and 2 for Mike Leach, Luke Falk, and the Washington State offense, and they are going to go for it from the Minnesota 12.
Sitting in that meeting with Mike, it was 100% man-to-man. In these situations, their short yardage situations, they really felt like they were going to get man-to-man and everything available in their playbook.
Again, Gerard Wicks is the back. Wicks again. Right at the line to gain. And it looks like from the position of the official running in from the near side, they will give him the spot just inside the 10. That'll be a 1st down and goal.
And you can see him making the move that we see all around the NFL. Ezekiel Elliott last night on Monday Night Football, feed me. And Wicks is a big man. And this is as diverse and talented a running back group as Mike Leach has ever had. He's got the big fella in Wicks with 11 rushing touchdowns, short yardage. Morrow, the leading receiver out of the backfield. And James Williams, the most talented, I think, of the 3.
14th play of the drive. One-handed catch made, but only for about a yard. Nice grab by Robert Lewis. 2nd down and goal.
And this speaks to some of that time of possession, as you see the true freshman there getting plenty of targets, and that will be the norm throughout this season. It is a system that is wide open, that takes advantage of all the field, but Luke Falk more than willing to test the true freshman who was without a defensive snap for the entirety of the regular season.
Well, Tracy Clay has told us that Coney Durr was going to play earlier this season, but he had a high ankle sprain, aggravated it at some point. So Falk on 2nd down. Long throw. Right side of the end zone, incomplete for John Thompson. Now it's 3rd down and goal. Talk about that difference in styles. Minnesota's defense has faced 36 red zone opportunities for the opponent this year.
And when they've gotten in those situations, they're taken away. those touchdowns. And Luke Falk is going to have to make a decision to throw underneath, as he had there, or take his shots into the end zone like he missed.
This is the 69th red zone opportunity offensively this year for Wazoo. Falk floats right. Again extends the play. Bullets right. And it's incomplete. Robert Lewis thought he had it. Kunle Idinle is there in coverage and was able to either knock it away or force Lewis out of bounds.
That's awfully tight, and we're seeing Luke Falk. I think the growth and comfort in his game and knowing what he's going to get out of Minnesota tonight. He's going to have to continue to take what's there. They're going to try to limit the explosive plays as much as they can. A nice job once again of extending the play and throwing on the run. Not the norm for Luke Falk, but nearly gets a touchdown.
Eric Powell has made 7 of his last 8 coming into the National Funding Holiday Bowl. And from short range, 26 yards, he has now made 7 or 8 of his last 9. And Washington State has a 3-0 lead, but Brock, they were just this close to a 7-0 lead. In San Diego, the National Funding Holiday Bowl. Bob Wischusen, Brock Ewert, Allison Williams, a 3-0 lead for Washington State as Brock, they put together a long, time-consuming drive, but end up settling for only 3. Shannon Brooks from the 1. Out to about the 22-yard line or so, maybe the 21. And Allison, you're down on a field that took a ton of rain last week, got really chopped up during the Poinsettia Bowl that was here last week. What about the field conditions tonight? They were concerned.
It definitely did. You're right. Coming into this game, there was a lot of talk about what type of condition this field would be in. And honestly, Bob, it's not that bad. I walked it earlier. It's definitely soft, but it's not nearly as muddy or as torn up as we thought it would be. There are some spots that are worse than others, especially at midfield where that paint is. And along the sidelines, it's bad too. But the kickers I talked to, some of the other players said it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay, and certainly not nearly as bad as they thought it would be.
Dropped by Wolotarski. Well, the faster the track, advantage Washington State.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I'm going to be just so curious to watch that line of scrimmage, that box tonight. And you're going to see it. And they probably, Wazoo does it more than anybody else in college football. It's slight. It's subtle at times with that movement up front, but man, that can really mess with the communication, and especially with a new center in there. Mitch Leitner's brother Matt filling in tonight, his first start of his career, and just watch Washington State at the line of scrimmage tonight.
There they go again, shifting from left to right just before the snap. Play action for Leitner. Long throw to the sideline. Wide open, his favorite target is Wolotarski. And that's the first down of the game for Minnesota, a gain of 19.
And that's his guy. I mean, you look at the stats, it's disturbing. I mean, it's really Drew and nobody else. And it's inside and it's outside. And this is the combination where Mitch will play with some anticipation. Nice corner route, can't do it much better than that. You see the footing there for Pippins, not very explosive in and out of his cuts. But that is the go-to, will be throughout the evening.
Rodney Smith finds a lane and drags a tackler for about an 8-yard gain. Well, 82 in white. Wolotarski will talk about how the preponderance of catches that he's made. They only have 8 touchdown passes the whole season as a team, and he's caught 5 of them.
Remarkable.
And he came into tonight with 61, so now has 62 catches on the season. They did not have another wide receiver on their roster coming into the bowl game with more than 16 grabs, and he's up to 62 on the season. So he is their pass offense most of the time. 2nd down and 2. Flea flicker. Leitner off his back foot, hoists it down the middle. Trying to lay out. Having a step was Eric Carter, but he couldn't catch up to the ball that Leitner floated over the coverage.
That's a pretty good throw, actually. And pretty savvy from a guy that's made 40 starts in his career to not see any safety behind there. The action didn't really fool Washington State, maybe a little early for a flea flicker. Leitner does a wonderful job of putting as much air as he can with that pressure breathing down his throat, but Eric Carter unable to run under it.
3rd down and 2. They hustle up to the line. Quick handoff. Now check that, rolling out is Leitner. Throws it across his body, incomplete, intended for Wozniak. Now it's 4th down and 2 near midfield for Minnesota.
That's tough to do, by the way. That's a 6'10". Don't adjust your television. That is 6'10", 275 at tight end. Look at it. I mean, if you overthrow him, you've really done your job.
He is the tallest skill position player in FBS.
Or not done your job. Yeah, that is a massive man.
So Caleb Fossum deep at about the 10-yard line for Washington State to receive the punt of Ryan Santoso. Another nice kick. This one spirals down inside the 5 and takes a Washington State hop into the end zone. 3-0. Cougs have the lead and the football when we come back to San Diego.
Hey, where's Erin?
With my sister.
But she hates.
And the Advocare V100 Texas Bowl, A&M and Kansas State. Brock, is there a game that jumps out at you tomorrow that you think is an interesting matchup?
We're already hearing some noise of the boys from West Virginia and Miami talking a little bit of smack at one of their functions. I think there's going to be some energy, possibly some extracurricular activities between those two. I think there's going to be a lot of speed on the field as well.
Long throw for Falk. Easy pitch and catch, first down to Robert Lewis. When Luke Falk goes to the line, how many different plays, how many different combinations does he have at his disposal?
Yeah, it's a menu. In most systems, it's run pass, but for him, it's run pass, it's screen, it's the multitude of passing plays that he wants to get to. He's got the full slate, the full arsenal at his disposal.
Hand off to Wicks. Bottled up, no gain. It will be 2nd down and 10. How many quarterbacks do you think there are in America that would have that type of mental ability, that they could handle all of that?
Yeah, there are some, and obviously the more experience, and some of this is systematic. And I asked Mike Leach that. I said, is this the deepest you've gone into a playbook and the most freedom and liberty you've given your quarterback? And he said he's had quarterbacks with stronger arms, but he's not had any that can manage the entirety of it the way that Luke can.
2nd down and 9, double clutches, coming back to help his quarterback. Is the true freshman Isaiah Johnson-Mack. But he gets caught behind the line for a loss of a couple by the most experienced defensive back that Minnesota has. Jalen Myrick came up to make that stop. Now it's 3rd down and long.
And this is where you got to be careful, I think, if you're Minnesota. You can't just exhale and think that you have got it. Number one, Wazoo will go for it from anywhere on the field. But number two, Luke Falk, when I asked him and pressed him his favorite route, and he said verticals. And if you're going to play just base zone defense, he will always look for that vertical first and then come underneath.
Flags down in the secondary. And this might be a participation penalty. We'll have to see.
Legal substitution. Defense. 12 men in the formation. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
That could happen when you're missing the number of players that Tracy Clay's team is missing. Those communication errors can take place. And now it's 3rd down and 7.
And you're going to see, I mean, you can trust us, and you can trust the officials on the
Correction,
field.
there's no foul for legal substitution. Washington State substituted late. We have to give Minnesota time to match up.
Now they pick
3rd
up
down.
the flag. They did have 12 on the field, as you could see, but now the officials, after a conference, have decided to pick the flag up, saying that they didn't give Minnesota adequate time to substitute after the Cougs substituted. So now it's back to 3rd and 12. Only a 3-man rush. Falk checks it down. That's good defense by Minnesota. Dave Kataya is our rules expert joining us here in the booth. And Dave, what determines whether or not an official's going to step in and say, wait a minute, we made a mistake there. It wasn't 12 men on the field.
Well, first of all, they should have held the play right away to allow that not to happen. But since they made that error, they fixed it, which is great. The deal is the defense has to have an opportunity to substitute. They don't have to substitute, just the mere opportunity, and they certainly did not have it there. So I think it was a correct call.
Eric Powell back deep to punt to Jalen Myrick. That's a big stop for that defense for Minnesota. Line drive that Myrick lets bounce. Inside the 15. Inside the 11. Well, Friday, the Capital One Orange Bowl. Jim Harbaugh and number 6 Michigan take on Dalvin Cook and 11th ranked Florida State at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. 8 Eastern kick on ESPN. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Well, we saw Michigan earlier this year, Bob, and I'll tell you what, they're going to lose all 11 on defense. Jabril Peppers going to go pro, 10 other seniors around him. Typically, you get into bowl season and you've got that number of seniors playing their final games defensively. Dalvin better buckle up.
Shannon Brooks has a crease. Hard run. Gets some help from his friends and picks up 7.5.
Number 23.
And to me, this is a statement drive. You've got a couple possessions. You've tried to move it. You tried the flea flicker. And if I'm Minnesota, Jay Johnson, first-year offensive coordinator, I'd like to just establish that run. You're seeing a group that's active. You're seeing a group that is doing exactly what you anticipated doing. I think this is a time to use your 270-pound tight ends, your 50-pound advantage at the line of scrimmage, and try to run it right at Washington State.
Leitner on a keeper, has the first down and more. Mitch Leitner has only thrown 7 touchdowns this season, but he's run for 10. The 10 rushing touchdowns is currently 5th in the Big Ten among all players, not just quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's almost more comfortable. You can feel it outside of Wolotarski. You know, if it is not there, he is more than willing at 230-some pounds to put his head down. And it's going to be that kind of game. It's got to be a gritty, tough, physical game if Minnesota's going to find a way to beat the high-flying Cougs.
Other quarterbacks with over 30 yards rushing and passing: Lamar Jackson, Greg Ward, Taysom Hill, and J.T. Barrett. And this time Leitner again hands it off to Shannon Brooks. Peyton Pallure was there to make the stop. He is the leader in the heart of that defense for Washington State.
And this is his game. I saw Peyton in pregame, and I go way back with the Pallure family, and the Pallure family goes way back at Washington State. 4th generation is Peyton. He's wearing his dad's number. Scott was also a stud linebacker, 6-year pro, and this game is built for number 47.
Yeah, you're old. I didn't quite realize how old
I'm
you
real
were.
old.
Yeah.
Sure.
Peyton Pallure, you babysat for Peyton Pallure, didn't you?
Yes.
2nd and 7. Leitner steps up, avoids the rush, takes off again, and does well to pick up about 5 yards. Sets up a manageable 3rd down and 2, and that should take us down to the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, and Peyton liked to spend time in the doghouse. No lie. When I did babysit some 20 years ago, his family, where's Peyton? He's in the doghouse.
Wait a minute.
No, literally. He's hanging out with the dog. That's what middle linebackers do. You know from day one when they're out not playing with the dog, but sleeping with the dog in his house, they're built to tackle people between the tackles.
Wow. I mean, my kids spend a lot of time in the doghouse, but we don't have a dog. So the fact that Peyton was actually in the litter this entire season with our group, and you're watching right now. At Del Mar, about 15 miles north, there is a dog park beach where if you've got a bulldog that can wakeboard, then feel free. That's the place to take him. As we welcome you back to San Diego, you're watching the National Funding Holiday Bowl as part of Capital One Bowl Mania. Minnesota, Washington State. The Golden Gophers open up the second quarter with a big 3rd down. Quarterback draw. It's Leitner. Just barely may have made the first down marker. Frankie Louvu was the first to meet him and drive him back. Let's see where they spot it. And it looks as if he just did get enough to pick up the first down.
And this is one of the challenges for Washington State against Colorado. Sifo Lufau ran all over them. They had opportunities, and they just could not finish the tackles. And this is a game that if I'm a Minnesota fan and I'm on that coaching staff, I want Leitner's jersey actually dirty. A lot of times you want quarterbacks to be clean. You don't want them hit. I don't think that's the case for Leitner tonight. He is a redshirt senior. His brother is playing center there for the first time in the history of their careers. And I think he's at his best when he is getting down and dirty and running.
Shannon Brooks caught behind the line. Robert Barber came through to make the tackle for loss. It'll be 2nd down and 12. Is this Washington State defense too small, or can they win on the Pac-12 level long term with the type of size or lack thereof that they have in their front seven?
They need a little more. They would sure love some extra beef, but they will. Alex Grinch asked him that point blank. And you see Peyton Pallure right in the middle of it. He will sacrifice some size for speed and getting on the edge. Get on that edge of that gap in that shoulder pad. Did so on that last snap.
This play blown dead.
That's going to be the left tackle Green with a false start. But I go back, and I think the comp for this game tonight.
False start. Number 73, offense. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
To Stanford. Because Stanford has a lot of big fellas like Donnell Green, 6'7", 340 pounds, and you're going to have to defend that power and those people running right at you. And Alex Grinch said we did a wonderful job that game of getting on edges. You know, that speed wasn't just an equalizer for us. It was actually an advantage in that game. And it's got to be throughout the course of these 60 minutes, too.
A 230 to 250-pound defensive lineman on the edges. Smaller than the average big-time program is Ladner bottled up behind the line again. Dylan Hanser, one of those undersized, quote-unquote, defensive ends. At only 240 pounds, the junior made the stop.
Yeah, and this is confusion here for Minnesota. You can't have two guys sitting there free. And you saw the big tight end there, Wozniak, and that's part of the plan. Is when you are moving, we hear about it with offenses in the blur that they want to create to get a defense on their heels. Well, Washington State wants to do that. They want to change that picture. They want to confuse those tight ends and those tackles, create just a little hesitation so their speed can flourish.
3rd down and 21. This might get worse. It's going to be 3rd down and 26.
Number 78, offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
And you heard from Dave Kataya earlier. He's our official in the booth, and we were talking on the drive over here. Every single game, look at the movement. You call this a stem up front. Watch the movement, and that's all controlled right in the middle, and it makes those guys flinch up front. No matter how much you practice and you rep it, it doesn't matter. You get into these games, and you're hitting for real, and those guys are moving in front of you. You confuse that offensive line.
Shannon Brooks will pick up what he can, and a good run. Picked up about 16 yards back to the original line of scrimmage and buys some real estate for the punt crew.
Well, this is the trade-off. If you are going to move and you are going to stunt, well, there's going to be times that you don't get to your gap in your responsibility. And you see the big fella there, Equala. He's trying to get outside and into his gap. He can't. And that's why you've got to be committed to run. You can't go backwards. Minnesota's group is not explosive enough offensively to go backwards. But if they can continue to plod and go forward, they have an opportunity to possess, and in their case, hopefully score some points.
3rd punt for Santoso, and the 3rd good one. Caleb Fossum from inside the 10. Gets a block. Flag down. Brought down at the 15-yard line. And if that block that he got wasn't the legal type, then Washington State will be starting inside their own 10-yard line.
Yeah, and it wasn't. And it was right in the back. And it's the big defensive end there, Hanser, who's on special teams, but that's pretty obvious. And when that gunner gets
During
pushed.
return, legal block in the back. Number 33, return team, half the distance to the goal. 1st down.
Well, if you're Minnesota and you were faced a moment ago with 3rd down and 26, all the way back inside your 25-yard line, and now Washington State will start inside their own 10 when we come back, that is a great flip of the field. Not a bad assignment. Washington State and Minnesota in the National Funding Holiday Bowl. Bob Wischusen here with Brock Eward. Allison Williams down on the field. And what a change of field position for the Golden Gophers. 3rd and 21 back deep in their own end. And now look where Washington State starts this drive from.
And at some point, you've got to believe that Gabe Marks going to get a little bit more involved. Pac-12's leader all time in receptions. He's been blocking, but not many opportunities catching.
Falk will throw from the goal line. Gets out of the pocket, slides, and picks up about a yard. Allison?
Well, Minnesota defensive coordinator Jay Sawvel knows he has his work cut out for him with the inexperience they have right now in the defensive backfield, and he's continued to coach up those guys. He said going from practice to the game would be like going from single A to the majors and facing the Cubs pitching staff. So he's continued to work with them in this game. I've been watching him on the sideline. Whenever they are on the bench, he is working exclusively with that position group, giving them their keys and their towels and making sure they do the one thing they can always do, start the play correctly.
Minnesota jumped a couple times that time, but both times able to get back onside. Long out to Isaiah Johnson-Mack is there. A gain of 5. It will be 3rd down and about 3. How about the challenge, though, from a defensive play calling standpoint to try and disguise your looks, as Allison was talking about, but also know you can't put too much on the plate of the players that are out
I'm
there.
impressed right now, to be honest with you, and I bet you Luke Falk and Mike Leach would say the same thing. This is what we saw this year, and this was a good group defensively. It kept this team in every single game. There has been plenty of disguise. I don't see simplification at all.
Falk wanted the tunnel screen. It wasn't there. Comes back to the near side, and that's short of the first down, it looks like. John Thompson makes the catch, gets driven out of bounds by Duke McGee at the 10-yard line, and it will be 4th down and 1.
The tunnel screen actually was there, but the challenge was trying to manipulate the defender to get it to him.
There's a flag down, though. Downfield on Washington State. Obviously a scene that Minnesota would decline. It'll be 4th down and 1.
That was a really heads-up play by
Ineligible
Galen
downfield. Number 73, offense. Penalties decline. 4th down.
And Mike doesn't like it, but that's the appropriate call, and that's a better play by Minnesota defensively. That's doing your homework. And that's not O'Connell's fault or Middleton's fault or any of those big fellas up front. They're doing their job. But Galen Elmore right in the throwing lane, and Luke, the inability to manipulate it and get it to the receiver, forces another punt.
Are you surprised you haven't seen more confusion on the back end of the Minnesota defense?
I am, and I'm a little surprised we haven't seen any vertical shots either from Washington State down the field.
Kyle Sweet will punt it this time, and not a very good one. Takes a sideways hop and laying on the ground and trying to avoid touching the football was Eric Carter, but it fell right in his lap at the 40-yard line. Only a 25-yard punt. So talk about a change of field position for Minnesota. They begin in plus territory when we come back.
The holidays should bring joy. So why are you still putting up with complicated cashback cards?
Eat, drink, play, and watch sports.
If you're getting the idea that all our crew did before today was come out to San Diego with their bathing suits and their 12-pack, head down to the beach with a camera and figure, hey, while I'm there, I might as well just take some B-roll. That's exactly right. But it gives us some nice pictures to look at, and talk about a pretty picture here for Minnesota. As the 2 punt units, respectively, terrific job for Minnesota. Only a 25-yard punt for Washington State. Sets up the Golden Gophers at the plus 40-yard line. Play action on a false start.
False start. 55. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
That's now 3. I mean, it's remarkable because you study it and you really do prepare. And you've got your scout team, and I know there were 2 less practices for the Golden Gophers, but they had ample opportunity, and it just doesn't matter what the scout teamers do. Offensive linemen are trained to hit on movement, and that lateral movement right now getting in the heads, creating the negative plays for Minnesota.
3rd carry of the game for Rodney Smith. 4 yards. It'll be 2nd down and 11.
And it comes both ways. You know, it's everybody that gets involved up front. And early on, actually, Minnesota did a pretty good job of keeping their hand in the dirt. But eventually, you just can't help yourself. Left guard, left tackle, right guard, everybody getting involved. And this is not an offense that is really equipped to handle those negative yardage plays. Not a lot of speed, not a lot of explosiveness. They need to stay on schedule as best they can.
Leidner to throw. Gets free. He'll run. Very close to a 1st down. Let's see where they spot the football. Shalom Lawani was there to make the stop, but without measurement, the officials say 1st down. An 11-yard run for Mitch Leidner.
And Alex Grinch is going to tell you that in November and into December, this was the challenge for his defense. His guys were there, not necessarily Lawani, who chases Leidner down, but a nice stunt, an effective stunt. And you have an opportunity there to make a play in the backfield. That time was Kingston Fernandez. He could not finish. Leidner takes advantage.
Three yards on 1st down for Rodney Smith. Let's go back to the slide by Mitch Leidner. And Dave Kataya, again, our rules expert. They gave him the spot across the 30-yard line on a 1st down. Should he have been marked short?
Well, here's the interesting point. By rule, when he slides feet first like that, it's where any part other than his foot hits the ground and the position of the ball when it hits the ground. I think he can freeze frame it there, and he certainly looks short when he begins his slide.
Obviously, full speed, a different challenge for the officials. And a challenge to bring down Rodney Smith. Strong run to the 20-yard line. It looks like he may be inches shy of the first down. He took Peyton Pallure for a bit of a ride. Let's see where they mark the football here. It does indeed look like it will be just about 6 inches shy of a first. So 3rd down and 1. And shouldn't Rodney Smith be playing a larger role for Minnesota than we've seen so far?
Yeah. And over the course of this game, if he doesn't, they don't win. He's a difference maker. When he scores, his team wins.
Another false start.
False start, 73, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Their 4th false start here in the first half.
And there's times you can get irritated in Tracy Claeys because there's tricks those defenders plays too. Sometimes the middle linebacker will bark back set, you know, or they start to get the cadence. That's not the case here. I mean, look at all 3 of these offensive linemen, right guard, right tackle for Minnesota, left tackle, all 3 of those guys.
Is that the stemming that's getting them, or is that a freshman or an inexperienced center that just didn't snap the ball? Leidner back to throw now on 3rd down. Long throw, incomplete. Looking for a flag was Eric Carter. Nothing comes out, and now it's 4th down and about 6. So it looks like it will be a game-tying field goal attempt for the Golden Gophers.
And Carter wants a little hands here on Broughton, the corner. But I like the no call. They both initiate contact. Let them play. Let them play in a bowl game. When that receiver reaches his arm out, that defender should have every opportunity to do the same. Those pre-snap penalties catastrophic for many of these drives tonight for Minnesota.
So we've got the Big Ten kicker of the year, Emmett Carpenter. He has made 11 consecutive field goals. The 4th longest streak in Minnesota history. Hit the upright. Squeeze through. Make it 12 in a row. Just enough from Emmett Carpenter to tie the game. So that flip of field position in the end gets Minnesota 3 points and ties it up. As our buddy Bill Raftery would say, the affectionate kiss.
Has really turned the Miami Dolphins season around. Doug Martin down there in Tampa has been productive. And this is the year of the running back. We talked about it going into the season. This draft is going to come up. There are going to be a plethora of different options at that position. Light on quarterbacks, heavy on running backs in that April draft.
About 5-6 yards deep, Robert Taylor will take a knee. So it will come out to the 25-yard line for Luke Falk.
There's not many times that I hear new phrases in football, but I got one the other day in Pullman sitting there with Falk and Leach, and I think it's appropriate for where this game sits right now. Mike Leach said there's going to be meat on the table for you, Luke. Meaning there's going to be opportunities for you down the field with what Minnesota's going to do and some of their zones and the freshman corner, but you've got to take it. You got to go out and get it. Right now I see a pretty conservative approach offensively. Not many shots down the field. The lack of the explosive play. You got to get something going to move the chains and build some of that rhythm down the field.
Falk under some pressure. Backpedaling, buying time, checks it down, coming back to help out his quarterback. Here's Jamal Ball, but he's bottled up after a gain of only a yard.
And that's what they want. I mean, that's exactly what Jay Savell wants. He wants the Blake Cashmans coming down and laying the thunder, and that's what you're getting. You're getting a group defensively right now that is playing a lot of zone defense. It's got their eyes in the backfield, and they're not missing many tackles. 4 live tackling practices in bowl practice. This is a physical team. And right now it's hitting wazoo.
Falk again trying to extend the play. Scrambles short of the first down by 3 yards. Galen Elmore was there to trip him up.
And Minnesota says, good, Luke, run all you want. You know, Mitch Leidner is going to do it on the other side, and that's where he is most effective. Luke is most effective getting the ball out of his hands, establishing tempo and rhythm in their passing game, which outside of that first 17-play drive, they found very little of.
3rd down and 3. The Cougs are 1 for 5 on 3rd down. 4-man rush. Falk incomplete. Gabe Marks, the intended receiver, well covered by Jalen Myrick. So Minnesota gets another stop.
That's a 5-man pressure. That's everything you want. It's your best receiver, the most prolific receiver in the history of this conference. And that's a better play by Myrick than it is a throw to catch from Falk.
Another high and short punt. Takes a bit of a Washington State roll. Down to about the 30-yard line, just inside. 38-yard punt. Minnesota with a chance to take their first lead when we come back. 5:59 to go in the half.
There's a secondary that's missing some difference makers for them. And what I have seen throughout the course of this game, well, is a lot of what we anticipated, right? A lot of pressure. There has been no simplification of this scheme. Well, and because of it, Minnesota's in the right spot. They're going to drop a zone defender. Myrick's going to come. He's going to cut off this shallow cross. I see a team prepared. I see a team well coached. And I see a team that's emptying that defensive playbook against Luke Falk, who I think many of us assumed, well, Minnesota's got to simplify. You got a true freshman playing, lots of people out, and that's not been the case thus far.
Play action for Leidner. Looking deep for Wolotarski. Lays out but can't make the catch. Marcellus Pippins tried to stay with Wolotarski. And if that ball is about 6 inches shorter, Pippins is beaten. Wolotarski's got a great catch.
And that's a great look at it. You can see Pippins talking a little bit to the big fella, but there's a mismatch. And it's a lot of people have picked on. Wazoo, second worst in the conference in pass defense, 121st in the country. Committed to stopping the run. Those corners going to be on an island. And the 6'3" Wolotarski had a shot there. Just a little bit more air needed on the go route.
Shannon Brooks. A gain of 1. Isaac Dotson, who originally was recruited as a quarterback. His first 2 years played safety. Last year moved to nickel. This year linebacker. He has bounced all over the place. He was there to make the tackle for Washington State. Third down and 9.
And this has been Wolotarski territory. The go-to receiver, the guy that Leidner trusts the most. 82.
Instead, Leidner takes a long corner route. Leaping attempt made by Eric Carter, but he couldn't pull it in. So it's a 3 and out for Minnesota. They took 2 deep shots with the passing game, and both missing by fingertips.
In missing, and that's an all-out effort on the true freshman Thompson, but missing because, once again, both of these quarterbacks, they're feeling a little bit of pressure. And that time it was 33. Hands are right in the face of Leidner, not allowing him to set his feet and have that extra tick to throw it a little bit more accurately. The front sevens of both sides controlling this game so far.
Santoso with another punt. Fossum from the 25. Good coverage. The best part of Minnesota's game so far has been their punt group. They have changed field position and absolutely had an impact. As we remind you, of course, it's the games you've been waiting for all season. The college football playoff semifinals on New Year's Eve on ESPN. It's the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at 3 Eastern, Washington, Alabama. And then at 7, Ohio State, Clemson in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Both games streaming live on the ESPN app. And watch ESPN. And who's here? Larry Culpepper himself. Obviously working his way through a tough bowl season. He's got the knee brace on. 1st and 10 for Washington State. Luke Falk, incomplete. And Nick Saban looking for national championship number 6. It would tie Bear Bryant for the most since 1936. Is there anyone right now that doesn't think he's going to get it, that doesn't live in either Clemson, Columbus, or maybe up in your neck of the woods in Seattle?
Not many, and having been there in that wealth of experience, such an advantage when you get to that stage.
Falk throws that one away. Now it's 3rd down and 10. Winston Delani Bodier was all over Luke Falk as we check in with Allison.
Mike Leach called his offensive line big, strong, and friendly. But remember what he said, it just takes one guy to contaminate the group. Well, maybe he's found that guy within his own offensive line. Take a look at Cole Madison, rallying the troops on offense, getting into the chest of some of his teammates, and basically he said, we need to make a decision. Who are we going to be out there right now? Some frustration mounting, and maybe it's Cole Madison that can bring some mean to that offensive line.
Well, Allison, they're still faced with 3rd down and 10, and they're trying desperately to block a 3-man rush and can't do it. So whatever words Cole Madison had for his offensive mates didn't show up on that 3-and-out as Jonathan Celestine beat a double team.
Well, what showed up was another 3-man rush from a very different spots, and that's what Cole and this crew have looked at. It's what Colorado did with Jim Leavitt first to Luke Falk, is I am not going to show you the picture pre-snap that you're going to see post-snap. Pete Kwiatkowski at Washington did the same thing, and it's exactly what Jay Salvo and his crew are doing defensively right now for Minnesota.
Rugby-style kick from Eric Powell. Line drive dropped, picked back up by Myrick. And he eventually gets walloped at about the 41-yard line. So good field position for Minnesota. Flags out, though. After the play was over, perhaps, that altercation draws a penalty marker. And this would be a big call with 4:36 to go before halftime of a low-scoring tie. Field position has meant everything in this game so far. So it is a personal foul against Minnesota after the play was over, but there was an illegal formation penalty on the punt by Washington State as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. That is a late shot, an obvious call. It's a linebacker, Jalen Walters, the young guy. He's making his case. I didn't hear the whistle. I didn't hear anything.
Legal formation against the kicking team, 5 men in the backfield. That 5-yard penalty will be added to the end of the kick. After the play, we have a dead ball, personal foul on the return team. 15 yards. It'll be 1st down, Minnesota.
So in the end, Minnesota will net negative 10 yards off this exchange.
And you can see Tracy Clay saying, hey, guys, I'm a dictator. Those were his words to us last night, that, you know, there's pretty simple rules that you're going to follow here. And that's not one of them. Minnesota stylistically, we've seen it all night. And this is a crew that should have an advantage in the penalty game. Wazoo has been a crew that's been penalized 8.5 times per game this season. Minnesota 6.5. Right now, Minnesota hurting themselves, missing out on opportunities by going backwards.
Mitch Leidner is 2 of 8 for 26 yards. And this time, they'll start with the ground game. Rodney Smith picks up about 3. Now remember, Washington State won the toss and deferred their option to the second half. So Minnesota would love to make sure this ball goes in the freezer and that the Cougars don't get another chance with the football before halftime. They would have a chance to put together back-to-back possessions if they did. So from a clock management standpoint, Brock, I think this is a big drive for Minnesota. And as a result, they're taking their time. A huddle-up team with the play clock under 10. Play action for Leidner. He gets out of the pocket and runs it again. And it's a 1st down.
Yeah, it's not terribly complex when you watch the film of Minnesota offensively. They want to run it, not having a ton of success, mostly because of the false starts that have set them back on 4 different occasions. In the passing game, he's looking at Drew Wolatarski, and then he's running. And when you're 230 pounds, as Mitch is, against an undersized crew, you're bigger than most of those linebackers and people at the second level. Put your head down and go.
Rodney Smith. Shut down right at the line and driven back. Might have lost a yard. Jalen Thompson, the true freshman strong safety, who we said was an ESPN.com true freshman All-American. He's had that kind of a year. Leads the team in passes broken up, and a true freshman that started all 12 games in the middle of that Washington State defense.
Yeah, he's a good one. They knew in the spring he started taking that job and that role and that opportunity, and they looked at him. You're going to see that frame grow. About 183 pounds right now. By the time he's done in Jason Lascaso's weight room, he's going to be a 200-pounder. He's a difference maker. I mean, he's one of those guys that isn't just doing the right things and being in position. He's pulling the trigger as he did there, aggressively going downhill.
Play clock down to 2. Leidner at 1 takes the snap. Into double coverage. And maybe was throwing that one away. The closest to it, Eric Carter, he had no chance to make a play on that football, as Marcellus Pippins and Jalen Thompson were both there.
Yeah, but take a look at this. We talk about pushing the ball down the field. Boy, you got to take advantage of the opportunities underneath. Look at Mitch Leidner here. He wants to throw that deep route, but look at the underneath. I mean, just take, as one coach said to me, take the crumbs. They lead to the cookie. Plenty of opportunity to check it down, get your guy in space. Those eyes are too locked in down the field.
And instead it's 3rd down and 11. 5-man rush. Leidner hit, the ball comes out, flag down. And do they call that an incomplete pass or a fumble? Nnamdi Aguayo knocked it free, and now the officials will conference. It looks like clear recovery for Washington State if this is ruled a fumble.
Ruling on the field is fumble recovery by Washington State.
Well, all turnovers, all scoring plays automatically reviewed.
73, offense, penalty is declined. The previous play is under further review.
Of course, all plays reviewed, so now they're going to take a look and see if possibly Leidner's arm is coming forward.
And the obvious hold right in front of you with the left tackle Green. Does that arm come forward at all? That will be the judgment. When is the ball out of Leidner's hand? And that sure looks like the arm is starting to move forward before Aguayo makes contact.
And that's all it has to do.
Yes.
The moment, the instantaneous moment that that hand or that arm starts to move forward, as long as he has possession of the football at that moment, it's an incomplete pass.
Correct.
But boy, that is close. And again, it was ruled a fumble on the field. So maybe we can bring in Dave Kataya, our rules expert, and see not just what your thoughts are, Dave, but how tough this might be to overturn, because the precedent of fumble was what was said on the field.
Well, based on that last shot, it makes it really, really close, because he's got to have control when there's forward movement of the ball. The movement can be slight, but he has to have control of it when that occurs. Now, that shot looks like it is a forward pass, but you've got to piece all of those shots together that were shown to us by the truck. Let's take a look at this one. They may go with stands on this. This is really, really close. It depends on what they're doing. Remember, replay has a system called quad where they can freeze several replays at the same time.
Dave, and I think what I see there is don't be fooled by the arm action. The arm action certainly looks like it's going forward, but by that shot, it looked like he did not have control before that arm went forward.
Absolutely. And as Bob said earlier, any control with that forward motion is going to make it a forward pass.
After review, ruling on the field stands.
Yep.
First
Absolutely
down.
agree with that.
You called it. That's a good prediction.
Yep.
Now, had they called that an incomplete pass,
Then it would have
probably would have stayed an incomplete pass.
Absolutely, Bob. Absolutely.
So that's the worst case scenario for Minnesota, because now Washington starts in plus territory and they begin the 3rd quarter with the ball.
Yeah, Wazoo is too fast defensively, and that's what Leidner's thinking right now. I'm just seeing everything in front of me is chaos. We can't run it effectively. I'm getting hit. These stunts are getting home. And for Washington State offensively, they have got to find a rhythm. And it may start with a little run game opportunity.
Only a 3-man rush. In the flat, it's Morrow. And he stays in bounds and picks up about 5. Let's check in with Adnan.
Bob, thank you very much. Coming up on the Buick Halftime Report, Danny Cannell and Booger McFarland on this offensively challenged first half. We'll also pick apart what's happened with the ACC so far in this bowl season as they stay perfect thanks to Wake Forest win over Temple. And we'll also look ahead to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Bob, back to you.
All right, Adnan. Well, Morrow pulled down behind the line. A tackle for loss by Blake Cashman. 2nd on the team in sacks and tackles for loss coming into this game. He is a missile at that outside linebacker spot. And Washington State, boy, have they struggled since their opening drive. 3rd down and 8. And they are not quite in field goal range yet. Huge opportunity for Minnesota's defense on this play. This time they send a 4-man rush. Turns into 3. Falk. Long throw over the middle. Sliding attempt made inside the 15, inside the 10 by Robert Lewis. And they'll mark him down, yes, with a catch at the 12-yard line. A gain of 24.
And you're going to see the hustle to the line of scrimmage. Minnesota trying to substitute.
And Minnesota wants to call timeout.
Ruling on the field is catch. Previous play is under review.
Let's take a look at what the replay booth is looking at as well.
Those arms underneath, and does he maintain control as he is tumbling? This is a difficult catch for a receiver. You're coming across the field, and he goes down. I see the arms underneath the ball. I don't see movement with that ball either. And that call on the field, as we just saw on the other side, is so important. Is that ball on the ground? Is that elbow underneath?
It has to be indisputable video evidence to overturn the call that was made on the field. Have you seen anything so far that shows you 100% they got it wrong and that ball hits the turf?
I don't, and I like what they did on the previous call, and that is that call is going to stand if it is not indisputable in that booth. And that's a tremendous effort from Lewis. He's undersized, 5'9", about 165 pounds, and that's been Wazoo's offense. It's been the secondary play. It's been Falk's ability to keep plays alive, because within the normal framework and timing of this offense, there has been very little action.
And what a huge third down conversion that is. Minnesota with a chance to get off the field without Washington State being in realistic field goal range yet. And instead, it's going to be 1st down and 10 at the 12. And Washington State starts the third quarter with the football. Now, it's funny. I know Adnan referred to it as, we're going to talk to the guys at halftime about this offensively challenged first half.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would term this offensively challenged as much as I would give a lot of credit to both of these defenses. Right? I mean, there aren't guys missing plays out there as much as I think these defenses have executed magnificently, and still trying to get a look at Robert Lewis here to see if he got his arms under the football.
That's going to be awfully close with the ground, and the longer we sit here and the more replays they look at, as they try to, as you heard from Dave Kataya,
after review, the ruling on the field stands. Catch, 1st down.
So had they called that incomplete, they probably would have stayed with that. Just can't see the football with those red forearm pads that he's wearing, and obviously not indisputable video evidence to overturn the call. So it is 1st and 10 at the 12.
And where's number 9? I mean, eventually I have got to get my most prolific player of the ball. I've got to find a way to get Gabe Marks involved. And you see him at the bottom of the screen.
He only has 1 catch to this point. There he goes in motion. Just about ran into the football on the snap. And a sack. What a good play by the Golden Gopher defense again. Nick Rawlis, the inside linebacker, the 5th-year senior, comes through and buries Luke Falk. And now we have an injured player. Tavares Martin is down at the goal line.
This is one of the areas that Jay Sawville, the defensive coordinator for Minnesota, felt they would have some advantage. And I love it. I love it when I hear coordinators. They have an all the whole month, too. That's what makes bowl season just fascinating and awesome. Because Jay said, I don't know if Luke Falk and these Cougs, as they're trying to get the turf out of his face mask, are going to be able to do what they've done against others. And if they're going to get in those wide splits, we're going to rush him. And we feel like we've got some linebackers that can really get after that line of scrimmage. And you're going to see here Cole Madison at right tackle. And that's all designed. You're dropping defenders out. You're changing some of those pictures for those guys. And in come those linebackers. And there goes Luke Falk's helmet right into the turf.
They narrowly avoided disaster. It was almost Gabe Marks running right into the football as Luke Falk was taking the snap.
Yeah, and what you said earlier, you know, about Adnan and Booger and the rest of the guys, is you're going to see the heavy turf and grass in Luke Falk's helmet. Now, those guys saying offensively challenged. What these both defenses are doing is getting on the edges. Both defenses are dominating the line of scrimmage, doing it in a little different ways. Wazoo's doing it through a lot of their pre-snap mechanics, and Minnesota is doing it post-snap. Right, exactly what Colorado, the Wazoo fan is saying, man, this feels like what Colorado did and what Washington did down the stretch. As you see Tavares Martin, second leading receiver now with River Craycraft, lost for the season, hobbling off the field. But this is what those teams did. And Jay Sauble looked at that plan and said, that worked pretty well. You know, mixing and matching and bringing stunts and bringing blitzes and confusing the timing of Washington State. Pretty sound defense.
And with Tavares Martin going down, you may have noticed that Washington State lost a timeout. They had to use it to avoid a 10-second runoff with under a minute to go here in the half. So now they only have one timeout left. They can pick up a first down inside the 2, but it's second down and a mile. Again, only a 3-man rush. Luke Falk, he's going to take a shot at the end zone. Incomplete. Intended for C.J. Dimry. Working on Coney Durr back there, and the true freshman with a pretty good job of forcing Dimry up against the sideline.
Yeah, he's in position, but you got to keep that ball in bounds. I mean, that is a dead play. That is what Washington State wants to avoid at all times. Why they take their time at the line of scrimmage. They don't want to run into bad numbers. And you've got a 6'4" receiver against a true freshman. Luke's got to find a way to keep that ball in bounds and give his guy the opportunity to go up and get it.
Falk steps up to the corner. Dimry's got it. Coney Durr was there in coverage, but couldn't stop a third down and 22 conversion to the 1-yard line. It is first and goal. And now Minnesota will call a timeout on defense.
It's going to be real close.
That's their first timeout
By Tracy Claeys.
All the Minnesota players think this should have been ruled incomplete.
Yeah, it looked like it. I'm looking at the replay. Is that left foot down when he makes first contact and reception with that ball?
Boy, that left foot looks like it's coming off the turf when he makes the catch.
Welcome to our booth, Dave Kataya. This is what we call a second quarter trifecta.
You got it. Take a look at this, and Bob, what you're saying is it's awfully close for that foot. Now, right there, you got a freeze frame. Both feet are off the ground. He does have possession. Look at the second foot that lands on the white. So based on that shot, I think we got a pretty good case to change this.
Yeah, this may be the first of the 3 to actually have a definitive look. The other 2, there was nothing indisputable. You did not get that definitive look to turn it over. This may be our first shot as Luke is just a little bit late getting to that corner route.
You know, Dave, we freeze frame it. What's your standard when the ball literally first hits his hands? Or do you have to actually see him grasping the football to say, okay, he's got possession? Because there could be a difference between those two with where that left foot is in relation to the ground.
Well, possession is not an eternity. Possession is merely control with that foot down. But it certainly looks to me like when he first touched that ball, whatever, they're both up.
Yep.
You know what I like to do in these moments as well? Can we look at it in full speed? You saw the Minnesota defenders all react. You know, we sat at that replay convention, and that's one of the things. Let's watch this in real time.
Looks incomplete.
It looks incomplete.
Right.
Looks like they were right. And you freeze frame it. It certainly looks like that left foot's coming up as he gets possession of the football. Here's the call.
After review, it was determined that the receiver did not possess the ball inbounds, so an incomplete pass. Fourth down at the 25-yard line, left hash. The clock will start on the snap.
And once again, credit to Minnesota. That's a true freshman that Mike Leach has tried to pick on back-to-back plays, a go route that sailed wide, that time a corner route, but both a little bit off schedule, which is really the definition of the first 30 minutes for the Cougs. Just a little bit off schedule. And that little bit, I give a ton of credit to what Minnesota is doing both schematically and then effort-wise defensively.
There are not plays all over the field for either of these offenses to make that they're missing. It's been a really well-played defensive first half by both teams. 41 yards for Eric Powell to try and give Washington State the lead. Started outside the upright, hooked back in.
Is there anything prettier than a lefty?
Cougars now have a 6-3 lead.
Lefty shooting the three. Phil Mickelson's left-handed golf swings. Left-handed. The best swings in baseball have always been lefties.
Yeah, they're most lefties, I would say. There are notable exceptions, though, to that rule.
At the University of Minnesota, we're taking on the world's biggest challenges.
I'm driven to end drug addiction.
Teams of researchers are approaching these challenges from every angle.
I am driven to map the brain to predict those most likely to relapse.
I am driven to create localized painkillers that won't reach the brain.
I am driven to find the switch that turns off addiction.
Celebrating its 11th year sponsoring the Good Hands Field Goal Nets, Allstate makes contributions to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kicked. To date, Allstate has contributed millions in scholarship funds, and that's all we've had so far here in the first half. Field goals kicked. 6-3. Washington State has the lead in the National Funding Holiday Bowl. And Minnesota about to get the football back, still with 2 timeouts. That kick hops down to Rodney Smith at the 11. What a run back. Spins off tacklers and fights his way to the 30-yard line. So with 25 seconds to go in the half and 2 timeouts, are you taking shots here if you're Tracy Claeys and Mitch Leidner, or does this put it in the freezer?
You know, on first down, I would. I don't get the ball to start the second half. And I would like to take advantage of my 6'5 receiver, my 6'3 receiver. I don't know if you trust your guys up front right now where Washington State has been so dominant.
We'll try it on the ground with Rodney Smith. Pads popping as he moves the pile for about 5. Robert Taylor made the stop.
Well, when a defense is faster than you are, and they're getting out on your edges, and they're getting in your gaps, and you just are not able, and even in pass protection, I still think, and you said that in the first quarter, I think that's your best business operation. Just hand it to Smith, who is more than willing, you've heard it throughout this evening, more than willing to put his pads down and try to run through that contact.
Well, with suspended players in the secondary, shorthanded against Luke Falk in this Wazoo passing attack, could there be a coach in America happier to be losing at halftime than Tracy Claeys with what that score reads right now? Rodney Smith breaks a tackle, has the first down. Down to 10 seconds to go in the half.
And you got a skilled kicker here. Why not take a timeout? You don't get to keep them. Take one timeout here and take a shot. You got a 6'10 tight end down the middle. You've got undersized corners against your bigger wide receivers.
Well, if you're not going to take a timeout, then you don't even run another play. And that is exactly what Minnesota will do. They will head to the locker room down by 3. Washington State will start the third quarter with the football, but no touchdowns through the first 30 minutes. And this equals the season low in a first half for Washington State. So Mike Leach, I'm sure, never imagined that he would end up with only a field goal lead at halftime and no touchdowns on the board. That's the story here at the quarter. And a very anti-Holiday Bowl first half. You grew up watching this game, you remember points at times scored like a pinball machine. Well, not so in the first half. 6-3 is our score at halftime. Bob Wischusen and Brock Hewitt, Allison Williams will join us in just a moment. Although, to not give credit to the 2 defenses in the first half would probably be doing them a disservice because both played very well.
I would agree. And I think especially Minnesota, because you came in here and you looked at this matchup on paper and said, uh-oh, you're down 4 contributors in your secondary against the second most prolific passing offense in college football. You're going to be in trouble. But Jay Saville and his crew defensively have really mixed the looks and gotten after Luke Falk. This looks an awful lot like what Colorado and Washington did down the stretch, moving Luke from his first spot. How many times in that first half can we remember where Luke Falk went to the first guy in his progression? Very little. And when you're digging dirt out of your face mask, never a good sign in this system. Wazoo needs to find some rhythm. They need to take some shots. And I think Luke Falk in particular has got to play a little more aggressively for Mike Leach in this second half.
When a 3-man rush gets after your quarterback, though,
yes,
how hard is it to get into rhythm and take those shots?
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's not your standard 3-man rush. I mean, that's where I give credit. And that's, you know, frankly, Bob, where there's opportunity in a month to get ready for a game. And we're going to see it in the national semifinals in the playoff. You know, you're going to see with quality coaches who are going to try to take away your greatest strengths. And I think both of these defenses tonight have done so.
Wazoo won the toss, deferred their option to the second half, so they start the third quarter with Robert Taylor on the rundown. And they'll have to start deep in their own end. What has to change offensively? Well, a moment ago, Allison Williams talked to Mike Leach about just that.
Coach Leach, how would you describe your offense's performance in that first half?
Anemic.
What can you do to correct it in the second half?
Right now, all we're doing is bunting. It's like trying to win a baseball game and bunt the whole time. We need to go out there and play, and we need to pull the trigger. And right now everybody's trying to do too much and overcomplicating simple things, and we got to play better.
Mike, thank you.
Thanks.
We like him. We like him a lot. For interviews just like that one. Well, they'll start on the ground to begin here in the second half, and Gerard Wicks pile drives out to about the 20-yard line for a gain of 5, maybe 6. Looks like they'll mark him down at the 21, so it's 2nd down and 4.
It's not a complex play sheet as you see there in the hand, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that.
Now a false start.
You want to slow down an opponent, all that rush.
Number 76, offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
And give you guys an opportunity to do more than bunt. I think running the ball for 6 yards, a good start. Going backwards with the All-American O'Connell, that's exactly what he's talking about. Trying to do too much. Cody, stay in your stance. You don't need to get out of your stance. You don't need to fire off. Just do the things that you've been taught to do. And it wasn't what this offense was doing down the stretch.
So one of the 3 finalists for the Outland Trophy, Cody O'Connell, backs his team up 5. 2nd and 9, Falk to the outside. And there's a catch, and a rare one at that for Gabe Marks. He picks up 8. It will be 3rd down and 1 as Jalen Myrick was able to force Marks down.
And there's a first progression throw. That's a comeback, and that's against the veteran corner. That's not even picking on the freshman. But eventually in Gabe Marks' final game as a Cougar, you know he is going to get his touches. And he's not bashful about talking. And I'm sure he said to Luke at halftime, listen, I don't care if all those looks inside and all their stunts and movement pressures. I got one-on-one outside, and when I do, take advantage.
Now they go direct snap Wildcat. And running right with an extra offensive lineman up front, picking up the first down is James Williams. Luke Falk wanted a pass. Did you see Luke Falk standing on the near side of the field, jumping up and down as if to say, throw me the football? Unless that was a fake, but it certainly seemed like he was by himself.
Yeah, Bob, that's a fake.
Gotcha.
That's what you're taught to do. A non-football move like that. Look at me down here. I'm wide open. But don't throw it to me. Go run a guy over. And that's exactly that missed tackle. That was the difference in the first half. 3 and outs for Minnesota defensively. They made that tackle that time. McGee can't.
I'm a little embarrassed. 1st and 10. I bought the fake. A gain of 2 on the run by Jamal Morrow. Let's check in with Allison.
Well, guys, this Washington State offense trying to find the next gear, and they'll have to do so without Tavares Merton Jr. He is on the sideline in street clothes. He will not be returning to this game.
Wazoo does not disclose injuries. Mike Leach never does it, but we saw him go off the field, hold that hamstring, try to get it loose, and he could not.
Swing pass to Morrow. Hurdles a man. Does he have the first down? Very close, maybe a half-yard shot. Jumped right over Duke McGee.
And you're looking at the record holder all time at Wazoo as far as catching the ball out of the backfield. So maybe these young players doing more and more of that. Opportunity to go up and hurdle. You can make a play, but it can be disastrous on the other end.
Another 3rd down and short. Morrow finds a crease. He's got the first down and then some. Out to about the 44-yard line. Riley Sorensen, honorable mention, all Big 12, all Pac-12 at center with a good block. And what a story Riley Sorensen is. The man snapping the football to Luke Falk. Another handoff, and Allison, they run right behind Riley Sorensen again. And who would have thought in the last year that he'd be able to play football as his life basically fell apart.
Yeah, so many things in the past year have happened to Riley Sorensen, and it's been almost a year to the day. Last year he was going to play in the Sun Bowl, but moments before he found out his dad had a heart attack. He passed away just days later. 5 months later, he lost his mother to a long battle with cancer, and within days of saying so long to her, he found out he himself had testicular cancer. So it is absolutely amazing to see him even back out on the field. And guys, it's a special night too because he's playing so close to where he grew up, against the team his dad grew up cheering for. So one can only imagine the emotions he is experiencing on a night like tonight.
You're playing for the final time. I mean, this is it. And I love the commitment that Mike Leach has made to those guys up front. You want to change it? Right? You want to go from bunting to actually hitting singles and doubles and eventually home runs? Go out and run the ball first.
This time Falk has nothing and just dives back towards the line of scrimmage. It looks like he lost a yard, so it will be 2nd down and long.
Yeah, my experience with those linemen, and we saw it in the first half with Cole Madison, the right tackle. Sorensen's played a ton of ball. This is his 34th career start. Is, you know, when a deep group defensively has your number and they're stunting and they're blitzing and you're confused, there comes a point where you say to the coach, can we just run? Can we just run right at these guys and use our size and strength? And I like the commitment here from the Cougs in the second half to do just that.
Falk, timing throw. His best receiver, Marks, comes back to make a terrific reception in front of Jalen Myrick. That's a gain of 9. It'll be 3rd down and 2. You see Luke Falk getting into a little bit more of a rhythm here as we start the 3rd quarter.
You're starting to see more and more snaps, which is imperative for Washington State against the group. Remember, defensively down 4 members in that secondary.
Falk with a long scramble, nowhere to go. Blake Cashman gets the sack at the 42-yard line, and this will probably be a little too far for Mike Leach to go for it. Now you're looking at 4th down and about 8 at the 42.
Well, this awesome defense. That's a 3-man rush. Right, they drop right into where Luke Falk wanted to throw the ball, the double-in concept, and they felt like Minnesota did defensively. Blake Cashman would be a difference maker. Former walk-on. You could see the sidelines. He's helped this defense down the stretch. He's been a difference maker for him. I highly doubt he will be a walk-on come next fall.
And here's Zach Sharmy to punt. This is the 3rd different punter that Washington State has used tonight. All 3 of their punters have found their way into the lineup this year. The intentional end-over-end kick. And it takes a sideways hop. A little Minnesota bounce out across the 15-yard line. Minnesota down by 3 as we approach the midway point of the 3rd quarter.
Why doesn't Verizon offer unlimited data like
Susan Procure, Allison Williams. Night has fallen here in San Diego. The National Funding Holiday Bowl still without a touchdown. Minnesota, their next chance with the football starts deep in their own end, just across their own 15-yard line. Mitch Leidner, 2 of 9 for 26 yards passing, and yet his team is right in the game as we're about midway through the 3rd. Quarterback draw. Leidner keeps it simple, and Brock, unfortunately for Washington State, Luke Falk sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, and that's what his coach told Allison at halftime. Take what's there. And what you're going to see is Minnesota drops, and they've been doing this all night long, and it's not easy, but you've got to see that, and you can't throw into it. And instead, well, come down to your secondary players. And take a look at James Williams, your leading receiver, as a running back out of the backfield. I mean, look at him to the bottom. Once again, that green grass, that opportunity. You've got to see what that defense is doing and make the adjustments offensively.
Play action. Leidner. Wolotarski. 1st down. Do you think that Luke Falk should turn professional, or how much do you think he would benefit from another year with Mike Leach?
Yeah, I think he should come back to school. And I think that's all indicators. Mike Leach saying so to a degree yesterday in the press conference. Number one, you're going to shatter every school record. You're going to challenge Pac-12 records. You're going to have 3 offensive linemen back. I know you lose Gabe Marks, you lose River Craycraft, and that has played a significant role here down the stretch of the season.
Up the seam. It is there. Rashad still has a 1st down. to midfield. That's a gain of 19. So on the last 2 plays alone, Mitch Leidner has thrown for more yards than he threw for in the entire game to this point.
And Rashad still is saying, will you give me an opportunity? Instead of just looking Drew's way, I've got an undersized corner here as well. Rashad often into the boundary. You know that's exactly where Darian Moulton's going to play. And both of these Cougar corners, they're isolated. There are many times in one-on-one situations. That is where some vulnerability is, and you've got to take advantage.
Looks like they had a little problem with the chains on the far side of the field, but they have gotten that worked out. So a first down at midfield for the Golden Gophers. Reverse. Blockers out in front for Rashad still. Long strides, and he picks up a first down and gets walloped out of bounds by Isaac Dotson inside the 40-yard line, but picked up 13.
And here's how you counteract all that movement. You heard that Ringo call on television there, and that is that stemming. That's that movement by Washington State up front. And as fast as and aggressive as Washington State was in the first 30 minutes, here's the adjustment from Jay Johnson. In Minnesota, a little play pass, get the ball out of your hands. Right, a little end around, try to take advantage of so much of that fast pursuit.
Straight ahead run, and a good one for Shannon Brooks. Very close to another first down.
It's amazing when the Gophers stay on schedule. When they don't go backwards, when they don't have that false start, and they're able to stay on schedule. Well, here's our first drive, really, since Wazoo's opener of 17 plays that has any rhythm and continuity. And no surprise that it's a good mix from Minnesota of run-pass.
6 first downs in the entire first half for Minnesota. They have 4 on this drive. And this will be another false start.
Number 55, offense, 5-yard penalty. First down.
And just when you go heap and praise.
Yep, exactly what
Right.
you said they can't afford to do. And that is end up behind the chains. Now it's 1st and 15.
And other than the right tackle, Persig, everybody's been involved. There have been challenges at center. We knew there would be tonight. With Mitch's brother Matt making the first start of his career. But every one of them now, Mays, Wright, Green, that entire offensive line has contributed to what Tracy Clay said going into halftime to Allison. It's got to get fixed.
Shannon Brooks. No gain. Hercules Mataafa was first there for the Cougs. It'll be 2nd down and 15.
And let me give you 2 fixes. You go up there and you quick count. That's because a lot of teams don't do this, or they don't get in gaps because they're concerned defensively they'll be vulnerable and not sound. So you either go up there and quick count, or you go up there in a frozen count with no play. So your offensive lineman can't jump because they don't have a play to go jump into. And you get up there and you bark your signals and you let them declare, and then you get to what you want. So there are fixes in what you can do offensively, and Minnesota's doing neither.
That was a quick snap. Leidner bullets a throw to Tarski to the 15-yard line.
And trust me, those linemen want it. The last thing they want to do is sit in the stands and think as you see Moulton coming off the field, and that is by far Washington State's best corner. Every offensive lineman I ever played with doesn't want to sit there and hold their water and look at all of these defensive players and all this movement. They want to go up there and they want to hit and they want to attack. So either get them in the best play to do so, or like you said on that last one, get up there and quick count it.
At least 3 catches in 13 games this season for Wolotarski, as Washington State backed up again defensively. In the red zone goes Shannon Brooks for a gain of 2 down to about the 13-yard line. Peyton Pallure made the stop for the Cougs, so a chance for Minnesota to score the game's first touchdown and take their first lead.
And this has been Wolotarski, and Peyton's built for this game, and you've seen it downhill all night long. But this is where Wolotarski's got 5 of this team's 8 touchdown receptions, and they love to throw to the field. And you're going to see him in the slot, and watch that back pylon. That corner route's been a go-to.
Leidner under pressure, pocket collapses, and he just falls forward and moves the pile for what he can pick up. May have gotten it back to the line of scrimmage. Nalu Tapa there first for the Cougs. Now a big play coming here. 3rd down and 8 at the 13.
See Wolitarsky right there, the little pat, and Leitner was looking for him. It was not an out cut. It wasn't to the corner. It was an in cut. And that may very well set up a third down opportunity where you fake going in and out. And if I had a 6'10" tight end, I may look his way too.
He's out there. Nate Wozniak in that three-point stance at the bottom of your screen. Throwing it to nowhere. Into the arms of Shannon Brooks for the Minnesota touchdown. Marcellus Pippins, it looked like, had a room service interception. I'm not sure who Leitner's intended target was. There was no one but red jerseys in the area. And instead, it becomes a lucky touchdown for Shannon Brooks.
And Alex Grinch will put this on a reel of many plays for Washington State defensively. And he'll say, are you kidding me? I mean, you do everything right. You're in position. Now go make the play and go finish. And unfortunately, Pippins does just the other thing and allows Brooks to come down with a touchdown they had no business finding.
Certainly on that look, you could see that it was Brooks on the wheel route that was the intended target. But Mitch Leitner overthrew him by at least 5 yards. An assist, though, gives Brooks the touchdown. Washington State jersey to the honorary captain, Brianna Waldrop. And it is a really impressive scene when you are driving along the water, along the harbor in San Diego, and you see the military and naval might that the United States has right here in San Diego's backyard. The first lead for Minnesota comes on a caromed touchdown reception by Shannon Brooks. Marcellus Pippins in perfect position, just mistimed his jump. So the first lead for the Golden Gophers. Inside the 5, Robert Taylor. To about the 22-yard line. So let's see how Luke Falk and the offense for Washington State handles being behind for the first time. For the first time in the game, the Cougars find themselves on the short end of the scoreboard. Luke Falk without a touchdown pass so far, only 2 shy of tying Connor Halliday's Washington State record. Starts with a little screen here. C.J. Dimry pulls it down, flag down. As he got free, picked up the first down if the play stand, but we'll have to check the penalty marker. And Coney Durr, the true freshman, playing for the first time at right corner, is injured. The last position on the field that Minnesota could afford an injury is cornerback.
Holding, offense, number 15. 10-yard penalty, repeat first down. Timeout, injured player.
So Robert Lewis called for the penalty. Coney Durr is injured. Zoe Creighton, another redshirt freshman, is already in the defensive huddle, set to take his place. And that's a shame, Brock, because he has played well tonight. And a night where he's making his debut, the brightest of lights against a team like Washington State in their passing attack, and he has not been exposed the way we thought he might be.
Well, and you would sure love to see him get up here. His leg got caught underneath him. Washington State is trying. I mean, you have got to try to take advantage of an opportunity against someone that's never played a defensive snap this season. And they've taken a few shots, a go route, a corner route, to no success. And that time, Robert Lewis called for the holding, and I'm glad he's walking because his leg got pinned underneath him with that contact.
Ouch.
And there's advantages to being 18 years old and to be young and flexible, because that looked and could have been horrific, and good to see Coney at least have the ability to walk off on his own power.
He actually turned 19 on Christmas Day. So he is, at this level, a pup still, as a true freshman. Now, they told us that he was expected to play more than he has, which is really not at all. But earlier this year, had a high ankle sprain that he was trying to get through, and had aggravated it.
And I think I would probably test the backup to the backup.
And Zoe Creighton lining up across from Dimry. Instead, Falk looks over the middle. Pocket collapses. Down he goes again. He may have gained a yard, as Hendrik Ekpe tripped him up, but it will be second down and about 16 for Washington State.
And probably time to give this defensive front a little bit more credit. I mean, it's not just been the 3- and 4-man confusion when they have just rushed 4 as they did there. They are right in the lap of Luke Falk, Minnesota, anticipating that Falk will look the way of Creighton. They roll right over the top with the coverage. The safety takes it away. And that front 4 is suffocating the air out of this pocket.
Only one down lineman, a 3-man rush. And Falk steps up in the pocket and takes off. And picks up about 7.
You know what this feels like, Bob? As another gopher is down. This feels like what Bill Belichick did to the greatest show on turf. You're looking at the second best passing offense in college football. And you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to disrupt Kurt Warner that night in the Super Bowl. I'll rush 2, I'll rush 3, but you are not going to find easy completions and get into rhythm. And the more you run, the better for us defensively.
That's Steven Richardson, who's probably the best defensive line player all around that Minnesota had healthy coming into tonight. And now it looks like, is having that right knee looked at. And that's a slow walk off the field for the junior from Chicago. 3rd team all Big Ten this season. Led the team in sacks and tackles for loss with 7 sacks and 11 total tackles for loss. He was honorable mention all Big Ten last season as well. And they don't have as much depth as you think they might, even on that defensive line. We've been talking about the fact that this group in the secondary is very thin because of the suspensions we detailed at the start of the broadcast, but that's a loss. They don't have another Steven Richardson set to run in.
You're seeing they continue to work on the true freshman there, Durr, the corner. I guess the only good news for them, Bob, is we're nearing the 4th quarter, and they're not and have not been on the field for nearly the number of snaps Washington State was hoping they could keep this defense on the field for.
So Shuby Timms is now in at nose guard. 3rd down and 10. Again, only a 3-man rush. Falk, long throw, up the seam, laying out and trying to haul it in was Kyle Sweet and couldn't do it. Well, Falk that time took a shot, couldn't drop it in, and it will be a punt for the Cougars.
I think this is his best throw. His whole arsenal in attack, he loves to throw the verticals, and you can't put in a better spot. And that's Kyle Sweet, true sophomore. And you see the frustration. You can't throw better now. They might at least set enough of the bunts, go take a shot, go swing for the fences. They do. And unfortunately, that loss of River Craycraft the last 3 games of this season is, well, it's been substantial for this offense.
Eric Powell with a good kick. This drives Jalen Myrick all the way back, and he lets it bounce. And then in traffic, fields it on a hop. Dangerous play by Myrick, but is able to hold on to the football as we take a look at tonight's Buick drive recap.
And it was a good mix for Minnesota coming out the second half. Even overcame a false start penalty. And Leitner started 2 of 3 in the first half, missed his next 6. And this time distributing it to everybody. A fast flow defense, make them run. They wouldn't over pursue. Wolotarski gets involved. And now this is one that maybe the ball bounces the wrong way through the course of the season. You throw into triple coverage. The only guy that was covered on that play, clearly throwing to triple coverage, and every once in a while that ball can bounce your way as a quarterback, and it did. Right into the hands of Brooks for his 2nd receiving touchdown of his career.
You can see Minnesota has almost as much total yards in the 3rd quarter as they had in the entire first half. But a 55-yard punt changes field position. Play action for Leitner on 1st down. Again, he wants to go deep. Looking for a shot, still incomplete. It looked like still mistimed his jump. And that time Marcellus Pippins was there to help knock it away.
And Marcellus played a lot of ball. And the next step in the progression for him, he's usually in the right spot. A little bit of contact there between the two. Well, Alex Grinch, when I sat down with him in Pullman last week, said, I've taken over a defense that was horrific. Not his words, mine. Statistically speaking, was really bad and out of position. And I've got the guys in the right spot. But now, you know, the law of the playmaker, you have got to go and make the play when it's there in front of you. That's the next step.
not seen as much of Rodney Smith tonight as we expected. And if he picked up a half yard, it's a lot on that play. So now it's 3rd down and about 10.
And look at the old guy that used to live in the doghouse. He had the war paint on, the hair flowing out, and I'm telling you, he was ready to play this game. You know, seeing him down on the field pregame, quick hello, good to see you. And he said, I can't wait. This is a downhill game. This game is built for me. That's why you've not seen a lot of Rodney Smith, because the linemen have been covered up, and Peyton Pelluer has been delivering in the run game.
Flags down. Is it another false start?
False start. 55. Offense. 5-yard penalty. It's 3rd down.
And you made this point or asked the question earlier, and I think this probably does involve the center a little bit. And Tracy Clay's alluded to that he's the one in the middle. As you see Matt Leidner, the walk-on, making the first start of his career, he's the one in the middle. And you're used to a certain tempo and a timing and a rhythm of that cadence and that ball coming out. And Tyler Moore, the incumbent starter, had been the starter the last 2 seasons. And just discombobulated at the line of scrimmage.
What very well might be the final play of the 3rd quarter. 3rd down and 15. Draw play. Rodney Smith. Rockers out in front. At least 4 yards shy of the 1st down. That will take us to the end of the 3rd. Isaac Dotson made the tackle. So we head to the 4th quarter of the National Funding Holiday Bowl. Minnesota. They'll be punting, but they've got a 4-point lead. Running back Jeremy McNichols will lead the Bronx. That game also streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN as we start the 4th quarter with Minnesota with the lead in punt formation. And Brock, exactly the type of game that the Golden Gophers needed this to be, to have a chance to beat a high-powered offense like Washington State.
But when they played quality opponents, been their inability to finish in this quarter. Wisconsin and Penn State could not get over the hump this season.
Caleb Fossum lets it bounce. That takes a good Minnesota hop inside the 25-yard line. Well, while we were away, it seemed as if Mike Leach sensed that there was an urgency necessary for his team as we approached the last 15 minutes. He gathered his entire team around him right in front of the bench. And what do you think this message was?
And this is it. For you seniors, this is it. For Gabe Marks, this is it. 15 minutes left. And go out there and perform. And I think one of the things I've grown to appreciate about Mike Leach is, and you know it from talking to him and being around him, cut it loose. He wants guys to be aggressive. The last thing he wants is to be tentative ever. And we've talked about Luke Falk and the amount that he controls that. And Mike Leach, if he's going to go down, you know, his book was Swing Your Sword. He's going to go down aggressively, and I don't think he's seen that out of his Cougars, especially offensively, for 45 minutes.
And you mentioned Gabe Marks, 315 career catches now. #1 all time in the Pac-12, but an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty has just been called, it looks like on both teams, as Coney Durr is being taken back to the locker room on the cart. And he was very emotional. You could see those emotions continue for the true freshman.
And we've seen Minnesota, in his absence, roll that coverage, keep the safety. You see it to the top of the field right now with the inexperienced corner. Durr was a true freshman. In his place is Creighton. He's just a redshirt freshman.
On the receiving team.
And that vertical shot was off the fingertips of Sweet. I have got to, if you're a Washington State fan, you have got to see more of that vertical pressure out of this passing game.
Falk double clutches, takes a shot down the sideline for Marks, out of bounds. He made the catch, but Jalen Myrick did a really good job of basically running Gabe Marks out of bounds without committing a penalty.
Yeah, Myrick's went one. We saw it on the shallow cross earlier. And this time, you're exactly right. He runs him right out of bounds. Gabe Marks got to do his job to leave some room for Falk to throw it. And how about Marks on the other side? How about Marks on the redshirt freshman, who's not played a snap of football against the senior right now? Myrick, who's been the difference for this defense.
Out pass throw. Guess who's there in coverage again? You know, Jalen Myrick, he's a senior now. When he was a high school junior, he was not heavily recruited, but his uncle knew Tubby Smith, who was the basketball coach at Minnesota. So Jalen Myrick put together his own highlight video, gave it to his uncle. His uncle sent it to Tubby Smith. Mike Sherrills, who is on this defensive coach at linebackers, he found a contact in the basketball office, got a hold of the recruiting tape. He gave it to Jerry Kill, and once Jerry Kill saw it, he said, yeah, Jalen Myrick, he could play for us. Luke Falk surveys the field, incomplete. Stopping his route that time was Gabe Marks, and Jalen Myrick had the best chance at the football. This passing attack for Washington State is discombobulated by this Minnesota defense tonight in a way that we have not often seen.
Yeah, and you can see the frustration mounting, and Gabe's like, I got single coverage. I'm not breaking that off. And Washington got after Washington State in the Apple Cup. There's no doubt about it, but there were still ample opportunities. There were still touchdowns. Nobody has done this to Luke Falk in this system this season.
9 possessions for Washington State. That's their 7th punt. And it will be good field position for Minnesota unless a Golden Gopher touched the football, which the Washington State players believe someone did. And they say no, Golden Gopher football at their own 41-yard line. We'll look at it when we come back and see if Washington State should indeed have the football.
No. You can scroll menus for days, or just get what you want. PN.
As we went to break, you could see the Washington State special teams players reacting, saying that ball was touched by a Minnesota player. Here is a look. Watch the right foot of number 35, redshirt freshman Jalen Waters. Right there. It almost was as if he stepped on the side of the ball, forcing it forward at a bit higher speed, and as a result, I would think, Brock Eward, that this would be considered indisputable video evidence. Would you say that it's pretty clear that he touches the football on this next step? Right there.
Yes. From that view right there as you zoom in, yes. And this is now our 4th opportunity, and I think the replay booth has been spot on with all of our opinions here.
And the other thing they have to keep an eye on, and now 54 in red, is Nate DeRuyter. Did he make clear recovery? And it looks as if he does. Our referee, Gary Patterson, is just about, looks like, set to take the headset off. We'll see if this is indeed Washington State ball.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. The ball is not touched first by the receiving team. First down.
Interesting. Disagree. And now, again, the call on the field stands is code for maybe he touched it, maybe he didn't touch it. We didn't have what we would consider indisputable video evidence. Would you have called that indisputable if you were in that replay booth?
Yeah, I think that zoomed in look we saw where the ball clearly changes direction and movement. Pretty good indicator for me, and that's what Mike Leach is saying to the side judge as well. I mean, the whole crowd responded to it. You looked at it, you saw the ball change speed and trajectory. But you also, you know, the job in that replay booth and why it is difficult is you also got to be careful not to assume and make that jump an assumption that because of its, you know, that contact or what we deem contact, it forced that movement. Big call, big moment.
So Minnesota keeps possession. Shannon Brooks, the tailback, play action fake to him and through the hands of Wolotarski. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
And that's going to fit on our reel of that offense. Well, we spent 30 minutes in the first half really praising the defense and the energy and the effort and the scheme. But it also comes a point where there's a bit of offensive execution that has to come into play. And that's about as simple pitch and catch as you're going to get. And Leitner misses his buddy, Wolotarski.
Brooks with a cutback. Lost a half yard. Maybe got back to the line of scrimmage. 3rd down and 10.
That's our guy, Jalen Thompson, the true freshman that's just feeding. And you miss on first down, 2nd and 10 is typically tendency-wise a very high percentage of run game to try to get to more third and manageable. His buddy Tapa, the nose tackle, in the backfield, and Jalen Thompson has no shortage of impulsiveness, pulling the trigger, and making a big-time play.
Ryder back to throw. Over the middle. Caught. Turning upfield with a big play. Wolotarski. He's got the first down. A 3rd and 10 conversion. Picks up 20. Eventually, Jalen Thompson brought him down. That might be the biggest offensive play of the night for Minnesota.
And that's Jalen right on the back in coverage there. He's right on the back of Wolotarski. And whereas Gabe Marks, Luke Falk cannot be on the same page. They're pointing fingers at one another on 3rd and 10. That time Leidner and Drew connect and beat the true freshman Thompson.
Wolotarski, 5.1 receptions this season, 3rd best in the Big Ten. He's got 4 tonight. Trick play. Shannon Brooks turns the corner, wants to throw it, gets bottled up, and gets lobbed out of bounds. He wanted to go downfield to Rashad Still, but the Cougar defense didn't take the bait. Peyton Pallure and Jalen Thompson ran him out. That's a big loss of 6.
And a year ago against Iowa, Brooks threw a touchdown pass, similar play. And it's hard to train running backs to throw the ball away.
Throw it away.
But that's exactly what you got to do. If it's not there, you're outside the pocket, get it to the line of scrimmage, sail it into the stands, avoid that negative play on first down.
You run 30 yards east-west, you're not going to turn it upfield if the pass play isn't there and pick up a gain. So it costs his team 6. Hand off to Rodney Smith. 3rd and 13 coming up here to keep the drive alive for Minnesota.
You got a kicker now in Carpenter that's a real weapon for you. 9 for 9 this season of kicks of 40+. 2 for 2 on kicks of 50+. You would sure love to get a first down, but you'd love even more so to give your all-conference kicker an opportunity. Even if it's a 5, 10, 10-yard gain, a much better opportunity for Carpenter to deliver.
Not optimum field conditions. You can see the field goal target line they told us they were comfortable with about the 30-yard line. Here's Leidner. Back to help out his quarterback, Rashad Still. He may have picked up 3 or 4 yards. Jalen Thompson made the stop. It'll be 4th down and 10. So now, how much confidence do you have in Emmett Carpenter? It doesn't look like much, as they're going to send Ryan Santoso out to punt it away rather than try a 56-yard field goal to make it a 7-point game.
Yeah, 2 for 2, 50+, but it was 52. And on a night where your defense has been so dominant, shut down an offense like Washington State, no need to take that kind of risk.
You're right. This is a decision that's based on how your defense is playing. Now the job for Ryan Santoso, the junior, is to try and pin the Cougars inside the 10-yard line. And it looks like he has done just that. Inside the 10, how about the 2? Perfectly executed. 37-yard punt by Ryan Santoso, who has been about as valuable a weapon as Minnesota has had tonight. And Washington State, Capital One Bowl mania continuing, the National Funding Holiday Bowl. There is the trophy that these two teams are battling it out for. And now, if Luke Falk and Wazoo want the lead, they've got 98 yards to cover to get it done. They throw a little screen out the flat in the end zone, and it works well. Jamal Morrow delivers a blow to Jack Lynn. Demarius Travis got him around the ankles, but he's able to pick up 9 yards.
These are 3 of the most prolific backs in college football when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. Over 1,000 yards receiving from your running backs. Now, there's a multitude of weapons. Unfortunately, Minnesota has shut them down tonight. You got to get the running backs involved, and I still think there's one-on-one opportunities to the top of the field with a kid that has not played a defensive snap this season.
Let's pick up, not there. Luke Falk just shovels one to no man's land. Was there a receiver in the area? It looks like Robert Lewis was close enough. Jonathan Celestine put the pressure on Luke Falk.
Well, that's exactly the matchup that Minnesota wanted. They felt like their blitzing linebackers could beat Washington State's running backs. They may catch it out of the backfield. But as I've said a number of times tonight with Myrick, with the big fellow Richardson in the middle, with Cashman and that time Celestine, they are winning their one-on-one matchups The ultimate team game.
James Williams couldn't stop the rush of Celestine. Big play here. 3rd and 1. They'll try and run for it. And it looks like they've got it, although that was a pop that Jamal Morrow took from Jack Lynn. But he does pick up the first down, and he needs to go off. That's not surprising, as his whole body seemed to go limp when he took that shot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt, is there? Over 50 minutes of play. The Minnesota defensively came in as a strong Big Ten defense, and just their level of physical prowess at the corner, on the edges, their linebackers with their front. They've held the advantage tonight.
Swing pass to Gerard Wicks. Let's check in with Allison.
You guys have talked about for Minnesota, you know, how thin they are and experience in that secondary. But now up front, Steven Richardson, they took a look at that right knee for a while. He already had a brace on it. From what I could see and observe, I would be shocked if he's back out on the field at any point during this game. So a big loss up front for the Minnesota defense as well.
Well, let's see if they're able to make up for it. And now all of a sudden that Minnesota defensive line stems a bit. Turnabout is fair play. And now does Luke Falk change the play clock under 10. They'll run it right at the heart of the Golden Gopher defense. And coming up a yard shy of the first down is James Williams. So it's another 3rd down and short.
Boy, this is an awfully big one in field position. Washington State's had a hard time. 17-play drive, 11-play drive, and that is it. Had a hard time really getting into any rhythm. So critical for these spread teams, for these tempo rhythm teams to get first downs, to get that momentum going.
Blitz coming. Falk outside. Followed the draft. John Thompson couldn't hold on. He took a hit from Travis. 4th down and 1.
And when Mike Leach says to Allison, we are just trying to do too much. Much of what he said after the Washington State game. This group plays pitch and catch more than anybody in college football. You can watch one of their 2-hour practices, and Luke Falk's got a rubber arm. I mean, he is throwing hundreds, if not thousands, of passes. That is a simple little flat out route where you've got everything you want, and you can't execute the simplest of details in your offense.
Well, it's an offense without Tavares Martin and also without River Craycraft. Craycraft was injured and was not able to play the rest of the season. That's a terrific punt, though, all the way down to the 20-yard line by Powell. So that is a big change of field position. 58-yard punt. That's a big one for Eric Powell.
Recent history has taught us never ignore the wild card.
Have been very dangerous had they found their way into the college football playoff. USC and Penn State. And finally, the All-State Sugar Bowl wraps the day. Auburn and Oklahoma. All 3 games. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. Little hitch out to the left. Caught by Rodney Smith. Gained a yard. It'll be 2nd down and 9 as we come up on the midway point of the 4th quarter.
I think if you ask Mike Leach, 10 points and a takeaway, a fumble, a sack fumble, would you take that with 8 minutes to go in this game? And he would have said, yes, absolutely 100%. There's not been a defensive breakdown for Washington State. It's been an offense that has just not been able to get it going.
Leidner intended for Wolotarski. He was held up. Late flag thrown from the secondary. And it will be pass interference called against Jalen Thompson.
Pass interference. Defense, number 34. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
We talked about some of the aggressiveness of the freshman. I love watching him play. He just jumps off that tape as a more than willing defender, and he's coming down against the best receiver. You put your hands out and you impede that receiver's opportunity to go get it, you're going to draw the penalty. That's the right call. You love the aggressiveness, you love the mindset, and he is going to be one heck of a leader for this defense in the years to come. It just can't be so handsy to impede that receiver's opportunity to go get it.
Shannon Brooks dots the I. He takes the handoff right up the middle. 3 yards. Isaac Dotson made the stop, and following the game, you can tune into the ESPN 3 post-game trophy ceremony presented by Capital One. The winning team will have a chance to celebrate here at Qualcomm Stadium. A National Funding Holiday Bowl, a 4-point margin midway through the fourth quarter. An offensive MVP, a defensive MVP, and of course the team trophy. Those will all be handed out over on ESPN3. Play clock down to 2. Rolling right is Leidner, and the right flat. He's got Wolotowski. Good for a first down.
And if you're Mitch Leidner right now, the conversation that you are having both in your head and with some of your veterans, your 13-member senior class, it is as close as any that Tracy Claeys has had there in Minnesota. It's pretty simple, and that is execute. You've got 7 minutes to go. You've got an opportunity to get the best win of your season, to go out a winner, to get a 9th win for this program, and a lot of it is going to come down to the simple execution of number 7.
This is already one of the best second halves that Mitch Leidner has had, as Rodney Smith gets brought down behind the line for a loss of a couple by Frankie Louvu. So far this season, in the fourth quarter of games, he is throwing at 49% completions, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. So you talk, Brock, about how often Minnesota has been in this position. Can they close? Can they finish against a good team?
Yep.
And they were not able to do that in the games of the Big Ten, at least where they came up against ranked opponents. But the question now over the next 6:22, can they do it tonight? Rodney Smith falls forward and sets up a big third down. 3rd down and 7 coming up. And tonight after the Cactus Bowl, stick around for SportsCenter at night with Neil Everett. We'll have all the highlights from all the bowl games. Also the NBA, NHL, college hoops, NFL news. Everything else from your Tuesday. SportsCenter at night after Boise State Baylor on ESPN. Also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. Third down and 7, play clock at 10. Minnesota still in the huddle. Play clock down to 5 as they have to hustle up to the line. They get set, get the snap off. Leidner hands it off. Rodney Smith. Well short. So Washington State surrenders field position and also sees a decent amount of time go off the clock. But they do get a stop, and Tracy Claeys will have to punt.
Well, Tracy Claeys said he wanted to see 2 things: respect the game of the players that he had available and play really hard. And both of these groups defensively have done it. They have been relentless. Washington State matching the effort in many ways of Minnesota defensively, flying around, tackling very well. Rodney Smith's had a hard time going. That's a 1,000-yard back for Minnesota. And like Luke Falk on the other side, the biggest difference makers for both these offenses have just not found any easy yards.
Santoso, another good punt. Oh, this one takes a hot back in Washington State's direction out to the 17-yard line. Might be the last opportunity for Luke Falk with the football when we come back.
Coming up on Look Famous People, we catch Flo the progressive girl at the supermarket buying cheese.
More great college football action, the 4th of our quadruple header. Back to Big Game Bob.
Too kind, Adnan, as we are back just north and east of the Gaslamp Quarter, which is a terrific way to spend the night here in San Diego. Can Minnesota hold on, get one more defensive stop, and find a way to win the National Funding Holiday Bowl? Luke Falk back to work inside his own 20-yard line. Swings it right, caught, out on the edge, breaking a tackle. Robert Lewis gets down the sideline. And there's a big play, Brock, that Mike Leach has been looking for all night, hasn't been able to find.
No, and once again, it's hard yards. I mean, once again, that line of scrimmage has been so often dominated by Minnesota. People in Luke Falk's face, but that time able to manipulate just enough to hit Lewis on the run and get some space. Man, it has been hard for the Cougars to find any productive air or space in their offense.
Gain of 23. Here comes the blitz. And Washington State runs right into it with James Williams trying to grind out 2 yards.
And I was watching Mike Leach during that last break, and he was talking to his big fellas. And there was pretty firm conversation right here. And I'm pretty confident this conversation had a lot to do with their run game. And look at this. There is an inability to get to the second level of these linebackers. right? You just see the constant edges. He's on the edge. You can't get to these backers. It's been really the name of the game for Minnesota defensively tonight.
Catch made by Kyle Sweet, short of the first down. That brings up third down. Allison.
Brock, much like you were talking about, that was what Mike Leach was on his guys for, but he also told them they need to keep fighting. He said, we won 8 games this year because we didn't quit just because it wasn't easy. We need to fight to the end, go out there and take this game away from these guys. A very different coaching approach from Mike Leach in the first half, more hands off, very, very vocal here in the second half with his guys.
Interesting. Maybe he's feeling the frustrating nature of that suffocating Minnesota defense as well. Falk on third down, into a tight window. And it looks like he has the first down for the moment. And then Kyle Sweet took the hit and couldn't hold on. Well, now, here's an interesting decision. Near midfield, 4th down and 6 with 3:19 to go.
And this is a confident throw here. That is what Mike Leach wants. Throw into some of those tight windows. We saw Sweet earlier on the vertical route, the inability to hold on. That time, inability to hold through contact, and no surprise.
Now, Minnesota only has 10 points. You could punt deep. You could use your timeouts and try to get the football back that way. And instead, with 10 on the play clock.
Complete pass. Previous play is under review.
Wow, Washington State just got bailed out. They were running players like a fire drill onto the field with 10 seconds on the play clock. They were going to have to use a timeout with the clock stopped before that 4th down play. And instead, the officials now want to take a look at the last play. So replay buzzing down saved Washington State a timeout.
And this is now our 5th pretty substantial look at replay. Right, and I think we have learned one thing in the previous 4 calls. What's called on the field is pretty critical. And that's the way it should be. You want it that way. You want to give those guys on the field the opportunity to see it and call it. And if it's indisputable the other way, then you turn it around, which they've done on only one occasion this night, or tonight.
You have to survive the contact all the way to the ground and possess the football.
Yep.
So now the question is for Kyle Sweet, when he's laying on his back, does he have the football in his possession on the ground killing the play and then a Minnesota player rips it out? Or can you make the argument that he didn't control it all the way through, which would be the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass would stick? And we've only seen one angle so far, and I don't think that angle shows you nearly enough football to make a call.
No.
That was a pretty quick review.
I stand by your commentary.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. Incomplete pass, 4th down.
So how about going for it here on 4th down and 6 now that Washington State has had the opportunity to really think it over?
Well, if you're commanding your guys to be aggressive, then this is a play. If you want them to not be tentative and to stop bunting, then this is a play.
4th down and 6. Interesting defensive alignment here for the Golden Gophers, lining up single file behind their nose tackle. Now they declare, and Falk goes back. This time he's well protected, has all day to throw. Nowhere to go downfield with the football. Has to heave one to the sideline, and it's intercepted. Picked off. Kool-Aid, Ayinde, down the sideline. He's got a caravan, and he's got a touchdown.
How about these Gophers, Bob? I mean, we've talked about what Washington State has not done, and that's what happens when you're the number 2 rated offense in America, top 15 in scoring. Right? You feel like at times about what you've not done. How about we give credit finally and full-heartedly to what Minnesota has done defensively? Undermanned, without 4 contributors in their secondary, and they have been dominant.
Once again, they are going to review, as Ayinde had a caravan of blockers but was tight enough to the sideline that they just want to make sure on this 53-yard interception return for a touchdown that he stayed in bounds. Ruled a touchdown on the field.
Ooh.
Very close to stepping out of bounds.
I mean, that looks out to me. You want to see that green grass in between that
looks
black
like a toe
shoe and white line.
That looks like a toe on the sideline.
And let me tell you, there was nowhere to go with that ball. That is a scramble drill, and not only do you get pretty good rush initially, you show once again an exotic formation. Jay Saville, there's going to be really good coaching jobs in this bowl season. That's a defensive coordinator for Minnesota. I'd put this 60 minutes of tape and what he's done defensively with an undermanned group, 2 less bowl practices. And again, I think another look in many ways confirming no gap, no space there between shoe and out of bounds. But there was nowhere to go with the ball for Luke Falk. And on 4th down, you're not taking a sack. You're just going to give yourself an opportunity to at least give yourself a shot.
Here's the call.
After review, it was determined the ball carrier stepped out of bounds at the 30½ yard line. Please put 3:05 on the clock. 3:05.
Well, that breathes a little life back in the game for Washington State. But now Minnesota is in field goal range. Washington State has all 3 timeouts. So they need desperately a 3-and-out, force a field goal, be down by 7, and give Luke Falk one more opportunity with the football, or maybe a missed field goal from this distance. You're looking at a kick that would be in the mid to upper 40s in terms of distance. That's no gimme.
No, and you're probably sitting in the house if you're Alex Grinch as well. That you've got to make a play defensively because your offense right now just cannot separate. You're down River Craycraft, you're down Martin Jr. You have nobody that is winning in any position on that field. This may be time to really sell out defensively. They risk it anyway. They like to put their corners on an island. You can see an aggressive mindset here from Alex Grinch in this Cougar defense.
Well, you need to send the house here because if you don't get a 3-and-out, the game's all but over. You'll be using your timeouts. 1 first down here for Minnesota, and they could just about take a knee. Shannon Brooks finds room outside. Needs to stay in bounds, and does so. How about that effort? Has the first down. That's a gain of 11, and those were 11 hard yards picked up by Shannon Brooks.
Result of play is a first down, timeout. Washington
So that
State.
forces Washington
First time out of the
State
half,
to use a
30-second
timeout before
timeout.
a first down play, which takes an eternity off the clock if Minnesota gets this to 3rd and 4th down and doesn't short circuit themselves.
Bob, I had an old offensive coordinator, and he's still doing it. He's an analyst for the Arizona Cardinals. His name is Tom Moore. And Mike Leach knows him. We were talking about Tom Moore and sharing stories. And one thing that Tom Moore always used to say, he said, whoever plays the hardest, the longest, wins. And it is incredibly simple in nature. But there are plays that are so indicative of it. And you see it right there. 2 minutes to go. He could have gone down. He could have slid for a 7-yard gain. He doesn't. And he runs through 3 tackles. The previous 4th down, right? A pass play. And you watch the Minnesota guys play at a different speed defensively than Washington State is trying to run and separate. And they can't. Minnesota has played this game harder. They played it longer. And they've dominated it with their defense tonight.
Another lane outside for Brooks. And knowing that the run is coming, Washington State still gives up about 5 yards. So the second timeout is called by Washington State. They are down to their final timeout with 2:46 to go. And our chance to head back to our favorite, Adnan.
You're the best, Bob. Just want to let you know, Boise State and Baylor is starting on ESPN3 and Watch ESPN, the 4th of our quadruple header of college football on ESPN. It will be right here on ESPN once Minnesota and Washington State has concluded. For now, head over to ESPN3. Bob, back to you and Brock. Bring us home.
We'll try to do that. We are just about entering, by the way, Adnan's time of year. Adnan on Mike and Mike movie reviews as we approach the Academy Awards. It's as good as it gets. He will have an educated opinion on like who should get the award for best cinematography.
Well, I don't think there's any beauty in this one, right? In many ways, especially offensively, but this is exactly the way Tracy Claeys knew he had to go about winning it.
Now it's Rodney Smith. He takes the handoff. Up the middle. He's got a first down. And that should just about do it. Minnesota still needs to run plays, but Washington State down to only one timeout remaining.
How about that guy? How about Tracy under fire? And I think at times rightfully so. I don't think this situation handled particularly well. As I said in the open of this show, nobody wins. Nobody wins, and there's still going to be details to sort out after the fact. But for these 60 minutes, he got his group of kids to believe. They played harder, they played faster, and they out-hit and shut down a prolific offense.
Rodney Smith turns the corner. He's got a touchdown.
And it was Wazoo that ran out of gas. I think there was a lot of concern that Minnesota, they're on the field so much tonight. And that must be the gopher dance. But that's what this style of play is supposed to do in the scheme of things. And we talked last night to Tracy, and why do you go about, running your system the way you do, Coach Clay's, and, everybody's going up tempo these days, and you're just kind of old school. He says, well, it's a complete team. In inclement bad weather in Minnesota late in the year, we got to be able to run it. And you got to be able to wear people down, and his defense did it tonight. I think his defense not only wore down that Wazoo offense, I think eventually that defense even helped take some of the life out of a Cougar defense that battled very hard for 57-some minutes.
Yeah, they're 2 minutes away from holding Washington State without a touchdown, the 14th highest scoring offense in FBS. They average over 40 points per game. They've got 6 on the board. Have you seen a more impressive display by any unit, offensively or defensively, so far this bowl season than Minnesota's defense tonight?
No, and all season long against Washington State. Now, they're missing River Craycraft. There is no doubt about that. But Mitch Leidner don't care. And there's not going to be any apologies for who you're missing, because Minnesota's beat up and they're missing guys. But there's just no dynamic threat right now with Washington State and their receiving core offensively. And Minnesota's teed off. And Luke's going to be sore tomorrow. And this is going to be difficult film to watch, because when there were some pitch and catch opportunities, he couldn't execute. And when there were positive box counts to run it, his guys up front couldn't run it successfully. And without Tavares Martin Jr. and without River Craycraft, and really, I mean, throughout the course of this game, Jalen Myrick beating Gabe Marks, that's what leads to this. Some uncharted territory for this crew offensively.
And this continues a tough way that this group ended the season as well, because Luke Falk against Colorado threw for 3 touchdowns. But Washington State was 4 for 15 on 3rd down in that loss, and then he had a nightmarish Apple Cup game against Washington. They'll have to start from his own 21-yard line here. On top of that, to potentially go without a touchdown against a group that we are going to name tonight's Capital One player of the game. How do you pick one guy off this defense to reward?
And if you're going to play a lead defense, it's going to take everybody. And they have mixed their looks defensively. They have covered down. They brought 3 men, 4 men, 5 men. Jay Savo said, we will not simplify. We cannot do that. That's not our nature defensively. And everybody else got to pick up their game for some young corners that are going to play that have more than held their own tonight.
2 minutes to go, needing 2 scores with only 1 timeout. Kyle Sweet never turned around to look for the football. And that play a microcosm of the night for Luke Falk and the night for this Wazoo offense, how off-timed they've been based on the difficulty they've had against Minnesota.
Yeah, there's going to be folks around the Big Ten that say, okay, here's our first little taste. Right, here's Pac-12, Big Ten. Here's a pretty good defense. Not even the best. Not Michigan. Not Penn State. Not Wisconsin. Not Ohio State defensively. A very good unit who's looked brilliant tonight.
One-handed catch made by Gabe Marks. Brought down in bounds. 3rd down and 6. Luke Falk started the night 14 of 17. He is now 12 of his last 27 since that 14 of 17 start.
And they just cannot, and throughout the course of this game, could never push that ball down the field.
That's a 1st down catch by Sweet, but if you're Minnesota, you have no problem exchanging yardage for time, as once the ball is set ready for play, that clock will start again, and there it goes. Falk in trouble. A 4-man rush gets him again. Jonathan Celestine. Helped out by Delani Bodier. Carter Coughlin in there as well. And the final timeout called by Washington State.
30-second timeout.
It was almost a celebration injury.
No, they used to play baseball. That's what I was saying. They used to play baseball in this stadium.
That's right.
I promise you. Before beautiful Petco was built down the road. It's tough. This is going to be a tough one, and that uniform is indicative, really, this night of what the Apple Cup was. You kind of referenced Colorado. That's where it started here. Or just some of that swagger. At Wazoo in that 8-game winning streak, the longest since 1930. First time won 7-0 to begin Pac-12 play. But to me, the credit really belongs to these guys. This front right here, disrupted, got in the face of Luke, confused that offensive line, and allowed that secondary to keep everything in front of them all evening.
Falk over the middle, and that's good for a first down. All the way out to midfield to C.J. Dimry. But now Washington State out of timeout. So once that clock starts to roll again, they need to snap it quickly. Falk down the sideline, incomplete. There's the flag. That's a good call. Isaiah Johnson-Mack, the intended receiver. But Duke McGee grabbed him around the waist and slowed him up.
Pass interference. Defense, number 5. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
That is Minnesota's first defensive penalty of the night as Myrick gets called right there for pass interference. Falk hit as he throws, and it falls in no man's land. Carter Coughlin was all over Falk again. And Kunle Ayinde very nearly had his second interception here in the fourth quarter.
This front's going to be good now.
They've only got, what, 13
Yes.
seniors on this entire team?
And you're looking at a true freshman right there. You know, we talked about Cashman earlier, just a true sophomore. They're going to lose the Ekpe brothers, but these rushers, these guys that can go downhill and fit perfectly in the scheme, they're tough to deal with.
Screen. James Williams in the open field. Down the sideline. Inside the 10. 41 seconds to go.
That's what they needed. I mean, this running back crew is too prolific for them not to get the number of touches through the course of this evening. And who knows, you can make it interesting here with a touchdown and an onside kick.
Have to get in the end zone almost immediately. Falk to the pylon, incomplete. Intended for Marks. Jalen Myrick in coverage again.
Can't cover much better than that. You're in position. You're using your hands. You're disrupting the play. Myrick's had a phenomenal night. If you're going to single one guy out on this defense, they have tested him again and again, and he has responded.
Falk to the end zone. Outside of the back of the end zone, incomplete. 29 seconds to go. Dumb question. Would you kick the field goal right now?
Yeah.
Because if you do, then at least you have enough time if you recover the onside kick to maybe get in Hail Mary position. I don't know with no timeouts if you spend another play here trying to get in the end zone and you don't do it.
Well, the only thing I would say is, you know, this is where Luke's got to be smart. It's got to be in and out of his hands and a shot at the end zone. No sack, no scramble to preserve that time and any chance you have.
Third down and goal. And this is a play that is buying a lot of time off the clock for Minnesota. Falk back of the end zone. Looks like it's caught by Sweet. And that is a Washington State touchdown. So now Minnesota will be looking at a two-point conversion attempt, although there is a hat thrown on the back end line.
Ruling on the field was the receiver was forced out of bounds, came back in, maintained possession of the ball, touchdown. Previous play is under review.
So the fact that the hat was on the field, indicating that Kyle Sweet went out of bounds, was immediately defined by the officials as a force out.
I think this ACC crew, again, nailing it. I think the mechanics of all of that is done exactly right. They're going to take a look.
And the explanation being as clear as it was helps as well, as this seems like a pretty clear-cut touchdown. He gets 2 feet down. And as long as he controls that football as he goes all the way to the ground, it is a touchdown. He's got it. That should be pretty quickly confirmed, we would think, as a Cougars touchdown. And now they'll try to go for 2 and see if they can make it a field goal game, but only 19 seconds to go. And in spite of the fact that Minnesota gave up a touchdown, Brock, the amount of time that it took Washington State to score it.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Touchdown.
Do they have enough time, even if they get a 2-point conversion here, to recover an onside kick, get into field goal range, and try to tie the game?
Well, I believe in the previous years we have seen Hail Marys win bowl games. We've seen just about anything and everything happen in bowl games. Many times as these coaches and talking to them before the game on the field said, this feels like a season opener. You know, you got a month layoff. As we know, in season openers, crazy things often happen.
Well, the field goal only comes into play if they get the 2-point conversion here. Falk, slam, into complete, flag out. C.J. Dimry, the intended receiver, and that looks to be a targeting foul that will be called against Duke McGee.
I believe that is the 3rd time this season Mr. McGee has been charged with that penalty.
Ruling on the field, it was a pass that is incomplete. Targeting number 8 on the defense. That play is under review.
Yeah.
And Duke McGee was acting as if he couldn't believe the call, but does this not, with a launch and forcible contact to the head or neck area, meet the textbook definition of targeting?
Well, you nailed it earlier with your commentary. Keep it going. You're just right on it. Yes. Every indicator that you're looking for, you perform, and that's why you've been hit now 3 times for Duke McGee, 8 times overall for Minnesota this season.
That's a lot of targeting fouls.
And it's unnecessary. The ball is sailing wide. It's high. It's incomplete. You know, this rule in many ways has been designed to change the strike zone of these players, and largely it has. You look at the NFL game, you look at the collegiate game, you look at the number of these hits, and they are down. They've changed the strike zone. And Duke, you have no argument here, unfortunately.
That also changes the strategy with which Washington State can attempt the 2-point conversion, because now half the distance to the goal will make it maybe a run play possibility for a 2-point conversion. Again, our rules expert Dave Kataya is here in the booth with us. And Dave, what do you think?
Well, Bob and Brock, you brought it right up, that he's defenseless, which means any contact above the shoulder with forcible contact with anything, hand, arm, shoulder, etc., is going to be a targeting foul. Right there, you can see the arm. At the very least, this is going to stand. I don't see how you can change this. Here's a pretty good shot here. Yeah, it doesn't show you where, but he's clearly above the shoulders. He's defenseless. And when you're defenseless, it's going to be a targeting call.
After review, the ruling on the field confirmed. Targeting number 8. Number 8 is disqualified for the remainder of the game. The penalty is half the distance to the goal and replay the try.
And Duke McGee will now be suspended for the first half of next year's season opener for Minnesota as well. That suspension will carry over from the bowl game to the opener next year.
And many times you will hear wrong
Correction,
commentary.
the ruling stand.
You will hear, oh, it wasn't helmet to helmet. It does not matter. That forearm goes, he hits him with the forearm. Forcible contact above the head and neck does not have to be, and that is outdated terminology, and 100% the right call.
So now the 2-point conversion from the yard-and-a-half line. James Williams to the left of Falk. That's a false start. Now it will be just inside the 7-yard line that Washington State will try the 2.
False start. Number 60, offense. 5-yard penalty. Replay the try.
So now from just inside the 7-yard line. And now a timeout will be called by Minnesota defensively from the sideline.
Timeout. Minnesota. That's their first timeout of the half.
Well, what this
30
shows you a
second
little
timeout.
bit too, Bob, is the difference between losing a corner and losing a safety. You lose a corner, you can kind of isolate that position, and he's going to play a third or he's going to play man. But you lose Duke McGee, one of your safeties back there, one of the guys that's communicating all of this. And you can see the conversation there. And I'll say it again, Jay Savell, if they give a defensive or offensive coach of the bowl season, you have put together one heck of a 60-minute effort here. And he was enjoyable. I really enjoyed talking to him. And
he was a straight shooter.
He was.
When you asked him questions, he had no problem telling you exactly what he thought the keys in the game. He didn't hide much of what they were going to try to do philosophically and what he knew couldn't happen for his team to have a chance.
And he thought if Washington State was going to get in those wide splits and think that they could pass it and pick up all their games and their looks and their linebackers, he would take that. He would take that challenge and he would take that matchup, and he's been proven right here over the course of now nearly 60 minutes.
Another try at the two-point conversion. Flags down. Falk to the end zone. That's incomplete, but that may have been a neutral zone infraction on Minnesota, which would give another opportunity for Washington State to try the two.
Offside. Defense. Number 13. Half the distance to the goal. Replay the try.
When we were young growing up and watched these holiday bowls, they were 4-hour affairs, right? Maybe they were 50 to 48, not 17-12. But this is an uncharted territory for the Holiday Bowl.
Amazingly, the football is just about back at the exact spot that it was on the first try.
Half hour ago.
That's right. It's about 6 inches away from where this all began. Another two-point conversion attempt. Let's see if all these players can hold their water and avoid another penalty marker. Different look for Falk now. 2 backs in the backfield. Bullets one right to the goal line. Is he in? No! Robert Lewis came up short. Zoe Creighton was right on the goal line to help on the tackle.
And that's a redshirt
Ruling on the
freshman
field was a
who had
catch,
not
but the
played
ball
a
carrier did
snap
not
this
break the
season.
plane of the end zone. The try is no good.
And you've got a side judge that is standing. You see it right there. We're looking right down the plane of that goal line. He's going to have the best look of anybody. I mean, you want, again, another picture of what elite defense looks like, of what a well-coached defense looks like. Many times a young corner, not in that situation, sits with his coverage. Doesn't have his eyes up, doesn't have the awareness of what could be coming his way. Creighton lets go of that go route, honors that, what they call cloud coverage, that commitment. Eyes up, heads up, makes a tremendous play.
And if you're a Wazoo fan and you see Robert Lewis's feet on the goal line, that's not a touchdown, not a two-point conversion. Although they
Ruling
may
on
take
the
another
field,
look.
the ball carrier did not break the plane of the goal line. Previous play is under review.
They are going to review the two-point conversion attempt now. But the only thing that matters is the football.
That's right.
And from those 3 looks that we had, didn't have a look right down the goal line that would be any better than the official that you said, Brock, is standing right over the pylon. So you have to see the football break the plane for this to be a successful two-point conversion. Are you seeing anything from any of these replays that show the ball getting across the goal line?
No. I mean, you would love to assume. Or you would love to assume his body is
After
in
review,
there.
the ruling on the field stands. Unsuccessful try.
But nobody is going to have a better shot than that judge, that side judge that is looking right down the plane of that goal line.
And so the longest final minute, arguably in the history of any football game we've ever seen, still has 19 seconds remaining.
And you got a lumpy field, and there's no area more lumpy than the middle of the field. So a priority here for Eric Powell to do all he can to either pooch this in the air, to drive it into the ground. Well, he's going to drive it into the ground. It's going to take some effort to do so.
Here's Powell attempting the onside kick. Overloaded to the far side left. And now he might switch direction. Go to the short side. And that will be corralled nicely by Rashad Stood. And one knee will end the game for Minnesota, and they will be the champions of the National Funding Holiday Bowl.
And Tracy Claeys is going to say we won 8 games a year ago and we won 9 this year. Go back and look at the number of times that has happened. In 2005, they won 10 games. And they got it done. And it's been a long time since they've had that level and that stretch of consistency. And they earned it. And there was no doubt about this one. They outplayed Washington State. I think Mike Leach would say the same thing. Couldn't win in coverage. Couldn't win our one-on-ones. We couldn't win in the run game. In Minnesota, they did everything to take advantage and take this Holiday Bowl.
Well, Tracy Claeys gets the Gatorade bath, and his team celebrates a bowl win. As you said, Brock, they
earned it.
They earned it, especially on the defensive side. Coming up next, the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl, Boise State and Baylor. For more, tune into the ESPN3 postgame trophy ceremony presented by Capital One. So long from San Diego.